Take your event to the next level with Crossroads TV. Professional audio and video production, multi-camera live streaming, audio system for your panels and entertainment, plus stunning video screen production on LED walls. High quality, seamless production, tailored to your needs. Let us bring your vision to life. Contact us today.
Evening, everyone. Welcome to this very packed agenda for the Waterville Planning Board. Item number 1, approval of the minutes from the November 26th Planning Board meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Is
Second.
there a second? Great. Any discussion?
I seconded.
It was a long time ago. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, item number 2, disclosure of conflict of interest. Does anybody have a conflict with any of the votes that they're going to take tonight? Mr. Nail?
I want to disclose on the item number 3, Mr. Dosty's request. That's 415 KMD. I was a prior owner of that property.
Okay. But no connection to it now?
Nope.
Okay. Anybody have a problem with Mr. Nail participating on that item? Okay, good.
Speak louder.
My mic's on, I don't know.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Item number 3, Steve Dosty is requesting an informal pre-application review for a restaurant to be constructed at 415 KMD. Hi, Jeff.
Good evening. Let me grab There, good evening. My name is Jeff Allen. Whoops. My name is Jeff Allen from A.E. Hudson Engineers, and let me get some plans up here if I can get over to it. This is a project that I was, or this property was one that I was before you, I think it was the first project that I presented for Hudson, according to Ann. And this is a, I'll show you what you approved before. And this, no, that's the new one. This is Kennedy Memorial Drive, right next to Dunkin' Donuts, up by the airport road. And this is KMD going up and down on the side of the page. Across from that is Century Drive, which is actually a street that was approved by the city and built partway in there. But Dunkin' Donuts chose not to use it there, so they have a guardrail on the side of the street. And back in 2020, Mr. Dostie bought the first lot on that property and proposed to put on a store at that time, a health food store. And so this is the configuration with the store over here on the left and parking on the right. So he ended up not doing that. So now we're back with the next generation of this. He bought another property here to allow a larger parking lot. And at this time, he has somebody that's interested in creating a restaurant here. And so it's I'm not sure what the restaurant's going to look like, but I guess it's smaller than what I had approved before. But the restaurant here is about 6,000 square feet and plus or minus. So the actual restaurant will be slightly smaller than that. We've got couple additional parking bays here, but we're still only about 3/4 of an acre of impervious area. So it's just a permit that we need from the city on this. I met with Andy, the city engineer out there, and taking a look at how this entrance goes out onto KMD, it's not a great spot to turn into and out of that. So for that reason, he decided he wants us to put up a sign that says right turn only as you go out of there. So when you leave this street, you'll have to turn right and head up toward the interstate. If assuming you may have to turn around somewhere else to come back down. Just because taking a left up there is a little scary because you'd have to go across, at that point, 3 or 4 lanes of traffic to make a left-hand turn. It's a very busy section. And part of the issue is just west of this on KMD, there's a signal there that's in front of a hotel. So the traffic queuing is you might have some cars parked out there, stopped at the light, other traffic coming down KMD. So a left-hand turn was just not a safe traffic movement there. So it is a right-only exit. You can enter either way because coming in you can see cars coming west on KMD, and you'd be going east on KMD, or right-hand turns if you're headed west is easy. So essentially that's the only change that we've made in the plan, is just to make it a little bit safer for traffic and add additional spaces for parking for the restaurant.
Jeff, is there any plan to finish that road?
Not at this point, I guess. It is I believe, a public road because it's on the maps. But this is the first. Oh, it is okay. It is not. So the road actually goes beyond where we are, but there is city water and sewer in the road already. So for this project, we'll be able to tap right onto city water and sewer.
So will the city be maintaining this road then, or no? No.
Yeah, we'd love for you to do that, but it's probably not. To date, they have not plowed it because there's been no development that's being accessed from. It's Century Drive is the name of the road, but no one has put anything out there yet that needs access off of off this road.
Where would this road go to if it carried on? Like, is there another road it
No.
could carry through to?
No, you'd have to connect into, one thing that we would be lovely to do, if we could connect into the back parking lot of Dunkin' Donuts, because ideally, the safest situation would be if traffic could go in that way, connect
Back out
through
to the
the
light.
Dunkin' parking lot and come out where the signalized intersection
Yeah.
is.
And there's no chance of that happening, I'm assuming?
I spoke to the owner, and
This is Mr. Dostie, the owner. Sorry. So, yeah, I don't believe there's any incentive for them to do that.
Okay.
does the additional traffic generated from Century Drive from this restaurant, does that trigger a traffic study or anything?
No, because of the size of the restaurant, it would be well under the 100 trips that would require a traffic study. I think we're somewhere around 40 trips.
40 trips.
But it's based on the number of seats in the restaurant, so.
How many seats are in the restaurant?
I actually haven't seen the floor plan of the restaurant. They're still
Okay.
working on that, I think. But it would be, the most they could have, I think, is around 60 seats in there. But I'm not, don't quote me on that. Yeah, there's they have to have a kitchen space and
Yep.
storage space, and if they're going smaller than the existing footprint, then,
Is the dumpster location in the far
Is that-
corner? Is that what we're
yeah,
looking at?
that's
Okay.
right down the back
Yeah.
corner here. And then this is a loading area, this kind of different hatching right up front here.
How close is that, like the dumpster area, to the houses that are behind there? Because isn't there houses back there?
No, it's,
No.
there's just on to the east of this, the east of this, on the bottom of the screen is the Doctor's Park. Behind it is just this big ravine
Okay.
that it would be several hundred feet from the nearest home.
If I recall, that piece that we're talking about, at one time, it was 2 lots.
Yes.
Okay, is the restaurant going to just use the entire piece? So it's,
Yeah, the 2 lots will now be combined under Mr. Dostie's ownership. And so it's, I think the old plan had it as lots 2 and 4 are now, the restaurant and the front half of the parking lot is on lot 2. Lot 4 is the rear half of the parking lot, and then some undeveloped space back there.
I see there's a great benefit with it being just 1 lot. Had it been, 2 different businesses, you'd have a heck of a lot more traffic in there.
Yeah, well, I believe there is another lot beyond this, so that could be developed in the future. And then
There are 3 lots?
I think it's 3 lots deep.
The hotel owns the third lot, they tried to sell it to me.
Yeah. No, the 1 lot was owned by Mike Knopfel at one time, I think.
Yep, that's the second piece of
Okay,
lot.
yeah, okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions? All right.
Okay, that's all I have for tonight. We'll be back in a couple weeks, or
Okay.
whenever your next
What
meeting
is,
is.
what is the hope for the timeline, Jeff, do you know?
Yesterday.
So ASAP, okay.
So whenever you have another meeting, I'll come back. I think, it's pretty straightforward, so.
Is it the 24?
The next regularly scheduled meeting is the 28th, and I polled the planning board members. We would have a quorum, but there's no time for the abutter notices and the legal notice to run, so you wouldn't be able to come back to the next meeting. It would have to be the first meeting in February, which is the 11th.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Item number 4, New England Rent to Own is requesting approval for revision to a previously approved plan for Rolling Meadows.
Good evening. I do have plans for the project if anybody would like a plan. believe you got them by PDF. Is that a yes?
Yes, please, yeah.
Yeah, I can, we can share.
My name is Randy Butler. I'm with Dirigo Engineering. You may remember, it's probably been about 2 years or so that we were in here, and the subdivision was approved under LA Properties, Rick Breton, and the only thing that we're doing is just removing one of the restrictions from the project. No changes to lot lines or anything else. So LA Properties just recently sold the property. So the new owner wanted to make a change or allow a change to the site. The original plan, which was signed, dated May 18th, 2023, so not quite 2 years ago. On note number 3, under residential lots and covenants and restrictions, there was a line there that said mobile homes, single wide or double wide, are not permitted. And we simply removed that note from the plan. And then the only other changes were just to change the owner's name, so that when that gets re-recorded, it'll be under the new ownership name. So that's the only change that's been made. The only other thing that we would request is, since we are approaching that 2-year time limit, we would like to request an extension. One of the things that the owner needs to do before anybody can occupy a home is to build either a fire cistern, which would be below ground, or a fire pond. That's part of the requirement that the fire chief requested, and that is recorded on the plan as well. If you were to look at the conditions, you'll see that's being one of the conditions on the plans.
Okay, any questions for Randy?
Does it show where the pond would be?
No, it does not show it. It would be just below Lot 6 is where the fire pond would be. What we're hoping to do is, if there is any future work, the prior owner had planned on some additional work out back. You'll see up between lots 1 and 2, you see a right-of-way there. So the prior owner of the property had scoped out potentially a subdivision out back there, which would trigger stormwater management law. And what we were planning on doing was to combine a wet pond to make it also double as a fire pond. And that would be below, in the area, if you look just below Lot 6, where you see the word 30-foot wide easement, kind of where that text is where that would be. And we've had that reviewed by the fire chief and so forth, as far as location, access, and so forth.
So are any of these lots built on now, Randy?
No, the only thing that has happened, I think it's Lot 5, perhaps Lot 4. They had done some cutting out for a driveway, nothing constructed, so there's some earth disturbance and so forth. I haven't been there in the last few months, so I'm not sure exactly the status of that. But I believe it's either Lot 4 or Lot 5.
So if these are restrictions that are covenants to the deed, I don't understand how the planning board can grant you the permission to remove them.
I don't believe any lots have been sold yet, is that correct? No lots have been sold, so there's nothing in a deed at this point.
Ann?
Those were placed by the former owner. Sold.
Your mic's not on, Ann.
Sorry. It was Mr. Breton's wish to put those restrictions in. He sold the property and he no longer has any interest in whether, I suppose he would like to have them removed because that's what the new owner wants.
Right.
And those were not a condition of the planning board.
Is it safe to assume there's no zoning issue with removing these?
Correct, yes.
So I understand that these weren't conditions of the planning board, but so why would they have anything to do with us then?
Oh, it's because those are on the face of the plan. They're asking to revise the plan. So whenever a plan is approved, they're not allowed to do anything other than what's on the plan unless they come back and ask for a revision to the plan. They also changed the owner name on it, and as Randy said, they need an extension, so they need to come to you anyway.
Randy, what duration of extension are you looking for?
2 years.
2 years.
Are the lots still going to be sold, Randy?
Yes, yes, that's the intent. Correct.
So they're not going to be like added to a park?
No, no, in fact, I don't think, well, when you say added to a park, I guess I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, it's not going to end up as like an extension of existing parks. It's not an extension of a park.
No, well, no, because they're individual lots. They're 25,000 square foot lots, so they're fairly large lots, in comparison to a mobile home lot and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, there's no intent for those lots there to be a portion of a park. And
Potentially connect to a park.
Oh.
In the plan that you had submitted for the countryside expansion, did any of those roads, the proposed roads, connect to the roads?
we did allow a right-of-way up through there because at the time Rick Breton owned both pieces of property, so we thought it might be prudent to have a road connector there. But now it's under two different ownerships. So there's, if there were going to be a connection, they'd have to negotiate and get permission from that current owner, C37 Capital, that now owns Countryside. It's the expansion of Countryside Mobile Home Park that we did a few years back.
So it's possible that, or likely, that these new roads would connect?
Yes, it's possible, but there's nothing planned at this point, so it'd be just pure speculation. Yes, if the deal could be made with the owner downhill, then yes, it could connect.
If I remember correctly, were there additional lots proposed on this greater parcel?
Yes, I think we had one meeting where we brought in a preliminary plan, a concept plan, which was additional, a total of 15 lots. One of those would have been a common lot, so 14 lots is what we had scoped out, right? Yep. But since now Rick is no longer the owner of that, it's up in the air as to what may or may not happen there.
So the new state law wouldn't apply here?
The language that's being removed is prohibiting mobile homes.
Right.
The new state law allows mobile homes, so this would be compliant with
Right.
the new state law.
But just out of curiosity, not to make the meeting any longer than it already is gonna be, but would a plot of land that included that provision, would that be allowed to stand anyway?
I think so, because
Yeah.
covenants trump the state laws.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, private covenant.
Well, I think probably that would be, we have our solicitor here, but probably covenants that were written before the state law went into effect. I don't think you can place covenants on a property to circumvent the state law. But
Okay.
if you want a
So if
legal
like
opinion.
residential A like covenant is specific to a plot of land though, right? It's
Right.
not, we can't, there's no like zone-wide covenant, right?
Right, you cannot prohibit mobile homes anywhere in the city where you allow single-family homes.
Right.
And we allow single-family homes in all residential zones.
Okay, so, but because this covenant predated that state law, that is not applicable here necessarily.
It could have prevented it, but they're asking to remove it anyway, so.
Right, I'm saying,
Just
we're not
hypothetically.
mandated to remove it though because of
No,
the state
oh,
law.
no. He's just asking for it. to be
Right,
removed.
okay.
So along those lines, item number 5 on the covenants and restrictions saying that there can't be things like chickens and turkeys and that brings up the right to food, I think is what it's called, constitutional amendment in the state of Maine. I again, I'm not a lawyer, but I could see somebody challenging that. The only recommendation I would throw out there is I recently read on a covenant on a piece of property, like for instance, number 3, where it said must meet the requirements of the Waterville zoning ordinances that it's in, because you list it out, but if that zoning ordinance ever changes,
Oh,
you'd need to come back. So just something to think about.
okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board? Anybody from the public? Okay. And is this something like we need to vote on tonight then? or-
Right, so he needs 2 votes. 1 to approve the revision and 1 to approve the extension, or you can put them together if you want.
I'll make the motion
Two.
to both revise and give him an extension.
For 2 years.
Yes.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed?
Two opposed. Are you opposed to both the extension and the revision, or
Well, that
should we
was what the
separate
motion
them?
That was
was,
the motion.
so.
I'm opposed to the revision because I feel like we're approving an addition, potential addition to the mobile home park. If that covenant's removed, you potentially have mobile homes,
Approve a mobile home park, though.
It's zoned residential B.
but with the state law.
You can't have a park.
Right.
Not a park,
You
but
can't put a
have-
park
Right.
in, right? So I believe.
It wouldn't
well,
be a
depends
park.
what we approve later in this meeting, right?
Yeah.
As parameters.
And if I may, I do believe, and Ann can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe because that is residential B, I don't believe mobile home parks are allowed in that section, am I
Yeah,
right?
that's
Correct.
correct. Mobile home
Okay.
parks are not
That
allowed.
was
in
the big reason
residential.
that I,
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, folks.
Okay. Item number 5. First Church, formerly First Baptist Church, is requesting revisions to conditions of the zoning contract specific in ordinance 51/2020.
Good evening again. So this is much like the plan we came in earlier with. We've been to the city council, and they've referred it back to you. I can go through and explain it as I did before. Essentially, this is the corner of the church now, the back of the First Church. And then at one time in here, you can see this outline is 3 to 5 Park Street, or 3 Park Street, and then there's another was a duplex out back here. Our plan is to demolish those 2 buildings so we can put in a handicapped access, and also this would be a handicapped access ramp with frontage directly on the parking lot and being able to go up into the building this way, and also increase our parking. I know we've been through this, and the city council urged Mr. Lee, the attorney, to work this out and allow us to do this. And so he and I have looked at this plan. I gave him a draft plan, and he made some comments on it, and we made some changes. And the only notable change is we're putting a small island out here at the corner of Park Place and Park Avenue. This was thought to be much safer for the police, by the police chief to do this. That would give somebody pulling out of Park Place the opportunity to see traffic coming better, and there wouldn't have be cars parked in the corner, which is what happens now. We also put a low sign in there with the name of the church, First Church of Waterville, and some plantings. One other change that I did make here also is widen the sidewalk. I like the wide sidewalks downtown. And for pedestrians walking along there, it had the standard 4-foot wide bituminous sidewalks. We're going to make them 6 feet wide so 2 adults can walk side by side and, you know, somebody hold their wife's hand maybe. So that's pretty much the only change. The traffic would come in and go around here and come out. There still would be allowable access out onto Park Place, but that's what's there now. It always has, or has been for the last 50-odd years.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
About access out to Park Place?
Okay, yep.
Yes. These spaces could pull through and pull out onto Park Place, which is, you know, the way it is now. There's nothing new there, except that they have now a place that they can see around and have clearer access before they get out onto Park Avenue.
So the two-way traffic in and out from both?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because there are 2 curb cuts. Actually, there are 2 curb cuts there now. We're moving them a little bit just to line up better with the traffic stalls or parking stalls. And also, we're reducing the size of our parking stalls. Right now, they're like 10 feet wide by big by large. These are going to go down to standard size parking, so folks coming to church are going to have to park better. And this will allow us to put more cars in there.
I feel like with the two-way traffic makes me nervous, but I mean, I can't
Well, it's just it's internal to the parking lot. It's like going to Walmart. These are the same width of the aisles and traffic ways as you have in Walmart.
But coming on and off from Park Street, right?
No.
Okay.
This is Park Avenue, or
Yeah, that's
Park Street at the
Street,
bottom.
yeah. Park
And it goes in around here and back out onto Park Street here. And we just want people to go either way. So primarily, the access will be onto Park Street rather than on Park Place.
Right, but again, so that's not a lot of space, so you could have, like when church gets out, for example, I'm just trying to visualize it. Would you have cars coming out from both?
Potentially, yes.
And Park Place.
And Park Place, yes. But after church, we hang around and have coffee and
Yep.
cookies. So it kind
I
of
do like
dampens that surge getting out.
Is there a reason why you didn't just choose one entrance and one exit, Jeff? A one-way kind of loop?
We wanted more parking. Because if you did just one entrance here, how would you'd have to go all the way back up around and come out one entrance. So this is actually much safer than having just the one entrance. Because there are, you don't have to navigate all the way through the parking lot to get back out.
So there's enough room for 2 cars to be passing each other
Yes.
with people going in and out of the stalls?
Yep, it's 24 feet. That's
Okay.
the same thing that, it's like a standard for.
Standard parking
Yeah.
lot, like concourse and everything?
Yep.
Okay. All
Yep,
right.
exactly.
Trust your judgment.
Yep.
I'm a little nervous about, I will say, I am a little nervous with having 3 outlets onto Park Street.
Well, it's just two onto Park
well,
Street.
Well, it's really
Park
3.
Place is
Yeah.
coming out from.
Right.
So there are 3 actual outlets.
Yep. With 40 feet between each of them.
Yep.
I know,
You're
but
the
everybody
expert.
also leaving and coming at the same times for the most part. Cookies or no cookies, like,
They're good
Is there still
cookies.
on-street
Sure they
parking
are.
there too?
There will be parking because.
On street?
Yeah, on street, on the opposite side, on the park side of Park Street, there
But
will be parking
Not
there.
on the church side?
Right,
Okay. That makes me feel a little better.
yeah, but that's what's happening now, Cassie, is,
I know the police chief has seen this though, so.
yeah.
Okay.
There's no lighting.
We, actually, it's on the utility plan, but yeah, there will be some lighting on the building, and I think we had one shown out here in the corner of the parking lot, directed away from the residents, It's all, full cutoff. Yeah.
What's the plan for snow removal or snow placement?
Actually, what happens now is we pack it up against the fence that's here and then have it hauled off if we need to.
Okay. So that could
That's going to
definitely limit traffic flow.
Well, if you park, I think what we do is put the extra snow in these 2 or 4 parking spaces on a park place. Yeah.
Yeah.
And use that as a stockpile, because that's the furthest and least desirable parking spots.
Whose fence is that?
That's part of the fence that's there is the neighbors. We're putting a new, right now there are plantings along here, and our proposal is to put a new fence from Park Place back as far as the abutter's garage. And we'll also be putting another fence from our garage here over to the corner of the building, because there's the laundromats right here.
So whose fence are we placing snow against, though?
It would be, this part would be new fencing that we are putting up. It would be our fencing.
Okay, so but that's no snow going against the
No,
neighbor's
because
fence?
we need to keep that area open for traffic flow.
Okay.
So I think we're looking for a referral back to the city council.
What type of shrubs were you planning on planting there on the corner?
Low ones.
Okay.
We want to get ones that you can see over when you're sitting in a car. So just by definition, they'd have to be no more than a couple feet tall. Similarly, the sign is only going to be 2.5 feet tall, roughly. The sign will be the same size as the one that's on visible at the front of the church from Elm Street.
Okay.
So it'll be low enough so you can see over the top of it safely.
And there are no plans to tear down the garage?
Nope.
Okay.
If I may, if we do tear down the garage, part of the agreement that we've worked out with Mr. Lee is that we would replace a fence there. Because right now the garage is serving as a visual barrier to the neighbor. And so if we take down the garage, we will put a fence in its place.
6-foot, like stockade fence? Or?
Yep. Real vinyl stockade.
Okay. Just checking.
Okay. You know what I mean?
If I may,
Yes.
presently, are you aware as to how this piece of property is zoned?
Yes.
How?
What's the parking lot, the first,
7, 3, and 5, how is that?
there are two zones.
Okay, and what are they?
I think Ann may have that language. I don't have that language with me, but 3 and 5 has to be a beauty salon, office space, or residential. 7 has to be parking lot.
Okay, and that's what you're addressing right now.
We're addressing, we're continuing with what 7 was, because we're going to make it a parking lot.
Okay.
But 3 and 5, the contract zone that we're working with the city on would allow us to make a parking lot where there's also, in lieu of, the residential beauty spa, health spa.
Okay, so you're not here tonight asking for a revision or a change with those lots 3 and 5?
I believe yeah, we are. Yeah. So we're asking for a change to the contract zone that is the contract zone that Mr. Lee and the church have agreed on.
Which is essentially what it was, plus a parking lot.
Right.
Right. So it's not much of a change except for they're adding parking lot to the current contract zone.
Yeah. And we are changing the site plan to allow us to install the handicapped access.
So the agreement is to go back to residential D?
No, we can't actually go back to residential D, I don't believe. We
So
have to,
you
because
want-
it's in a contract zone, we have to keep it in a contract zone, is what I understand. Perhaps Mr. Lee could explain that more if I exposed his picture.
Someone's going to have to explain it to me.
I'm here.
more.
He's back there somewhere.
No, the
Hi,
reason.
can you
that-
see me?
Yep.
No,
Okay, and for me to be able to hear, people need to speak directly into the microphone. The sound system otherwise does not transfer to here.
So I think the question, Mr. Lee, was, this is an amendment to the contract zone that they would be
Yes.
endorsing and sending back to the council. And as part of that contract zone, I believe this drawing is part of that contract zone.
With the proposed language, it is incorporated by reference. Therefore, if there were going to be any change to the parking diagram that's been submitted, it would have to go back to the planning board for review and approval, actually, back to the planning board for recommendation with ultimate approval by the city council because it is part of the contract zone. That's to ensure that the parking lot is constructed not just as it is described in the written portion of the contract zone, but visually as well, which is a much clearer indication of what the parking and surrounding area is going to look like.
Bill, is there any indication that there's going to be a discussion at some point to remove the two buildings out of there?
Those two buildings, I believe, are going to be removed, and there will be a parking lot and a handicap ramp and a handicap pickup and drop-off will be installed. And Mr. Allen can address that in more detail, but that is my
has
understanding.
that been discussed with the neighbors, and is that part of an agreement?
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question, is to ask if there are any people, any neighbors that have spoken at previous meetings to come up and give their opinion on this proposal.
Well, I mean, the city solicitor is telling us that eventually the buildings are going to be torn down. How do you make that statement without having a discussion with the neighbors?
That's been the plan all along, that those two buildings, to request approval to have that be used as parking. And I've had conversations with Councilor Finch, who in turn has had conversations, I believe, with Mr. Dombrowski about the proposed plan here.
The last meeting we discussed this at, I left with an understanding that there was concern about tearing down the buildings. That is still my concern. I don't know what has happened over the holidays. I wasn't paying attention to some things, perhaps. But now it seems almost as if it's a done deal. And I've been working a lot on the comprehensive plan, and I know Chapter 13 pretty well. And it is important as a community that we support our cultural lifestyles, and the church is certainly part of that. But it's also part of the comprehensive plan to support housing and control the amount of parking in the downtown area. So I'm just wondering, where is this coming from? Thank you.
I'm bringing 25 new housing units to you tonight. We're losing 5. I think we got a good trade-off.
No, it's not. Let's talk about the location of those housing units. In the downtown area, it's very valuable for people that don't have cars to be able to be in the downtown area. So I'm not sure it's a 1-for-1.
Say if it's 2-to-1, it's a 5-to-1 ratio is what I'm talking about.
Well,
Okay.
and regardless, going back, what we did discuss at the last planning board meeting was, this is essentially the compromise we came to at that planning board meeting, where we said, listen, we know we can't force you to turn those buildings back into housing, so we have an option, watch them rot as you leave them vacant, or come to an agreement where we understand that this is our option. You will keep it as a contract zone so that we're guaranteed that this is the absolute use for this land. And he would agree, or you guys would agree to bring us a plan that is what you will build, and there will be no alterations to that unless you come back before the planning board. That is what we discussed at the last planning board meeting in November. It was a long time ago. And then your lawyer laughed and said, you know what, we're gonna talk to city council. I believe, I was not at the city council meeting, but I believe that that was also what was discussed at city council, and that's why it's being sent back to us to approve their, the site plan that we sort of compromised on at the last planning board meeting. What he's doing is bringing us that plan now, which we basically already talked about, and as I remember, agreed that that was a good compromise for everybody. So if you're willing to do that, let's go ahead with that. That's my recollection of those events. Again, they own those buildings. We are not able to compel them to put housing in those buildings, which is something that we discussed at length at the last planning board meeting in November, on the 27th, I believe. Is that correct, Bill? Is that what can you hear me? Attorney Lee?
I don't think you could hear.
No.
So is that what you remember?
I think it was something like that. You wanted us to work with the council to come to an agreement, and that's what we've done.
Yeah.
This plan is the outcome of that negotiation with the council and Mr. Lee.
Yeah. And it's been extensive. This isn't just like
I cannot hear Ms. Julia speak.
You can't hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Okay.
But you have to speak directly into that microphone.
Okay. So what I said was that at the last planning board meeting, we had already discussed all of this, where we decided, I thought as a group, that we realized that we can't compel them to put housing back in those buildings. So either they would remain vacant buildings and they wouldn't get you wanted to go back to residential.
Right, we wanted it to revert to residential D.
Right, we weren't comfortable with that because that opens up a lot of other possibilities besides just parking lot. That's why I wasn't comfortable with reverting back, okay? Mostly because the neighbor moved there after that had been made a contract zone. So my feelings that I expressed at the last planning board meeting were that I'm okay with saying goodbye to those buildings because at this point they're already decommissioned. They own them. They're not turning them into housing no matter what we say here, okay? So my compromise, the way I feel, is that it's a nice compromise that we're allowing them to have their parking lot, but it has to remain a contract zone so that whoever buys the church next can't turn it into an amusement park or whatever else that residential zone allows besides parking lot. That was my feeling. That was why I was not okay with reverting to the residential D zone at any point, okay? So as far as I'm concerned, you have met all of the criteria I was looking for. So I appreciate you putting the effort in and working towards that compromise. I know that it doesn't maintain the buildings. As somebody who lives in Waterville, I'm all set with blighted, empty buildings. So until we can address that and prevent that from happening, this situation, in my opinion, is the best possible situation. Aside from you being like, actually, you know what, we're gonna turn those into 25 units of apartment buildings, whatever, right? We're not going there. So this is the next best thing as far as I'm concerned.
And that is to address the issue about Lot 7 with parking and not addressing any of the, with the buildings. Let them rot, let them stay there, do whatever you want to do, but they're going to remain.
No, the buildings
I'm
will...
saying, I'm trying to address what,
No, what I'm saying is if we stuck with saying we are keeping the contract zone as is, nothing can be done because we don't want to lose that housing. And again, we already discussed this at the last planning board meeting, so I don't feel like I'm doing anything besides reiterating what we discussed at that meeting, okay? So based on those discussions, what we had talked about is those housing units are not coming back. They were very attached to the idea of reverting to the residential D zone, which to me allowed them to do whatever they wanted with that property. It didn't require them to come here with a site plan, and it didn't require our approval if we had rezoned it to a residential D, okay? It would allow them to do whatever they want. Not that they would have. They said that they were going to do this, but what I wanted to see was a plan, a site plan that attaches their word to an actual document that binds them to that plan, okay? And so now what we have is a binding plan that states that they are putting a parking lot there and not, I don't know, what else does residential D allow for?
Professional offices.
Right, or, right. So, you know, if we had just reverted it to a residential D zone instead of keeping it the contract zone, what it would have done was allowed whoever the next buyer is, or even the church, to put in professional buildings there, which could create more traffic. Like, I mean, there are just so many options, right? This is something that we have to deal with all the time here at Planning Board, is the what ifs. Like, and that's really our purpose. Like, we need to prevent a situation where there's a whole bunch of what ifs. And in this instance, we know that yes, we're losing the buildings. We were going to lose them anyway because the church is not replacing the housing that is in those buildings, whether we make them keep them or not, okay? So what we actually discussed here was that as a compromise, if you're willing to bring us back a site plan that puts it in writing that this is what you want to do and not just something that falls under the category of residential D, that we would be okay with this. And so what they've done over the last 6 weeks was come up with the site plan that we requested, and that actually City Council, I wasn't at the meeting, but I assume City Council also backed us up with that recommendation.
all right, sir, let me, I am...
That's where I'm at.
I am more confused now than I was when I came in here, and I thought I was pretty well prepared for this. Can you hear me? Bill?
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Sir, do you feel that there is a final agreement?
I believe so, yes.
We're not coming back to discuss anything about the two buildings?
They are going away, that is correct.
What's that?
The buildings are going away.
What do you mean by going away?
They are being demolished. On this plan, it shows them being demolished.
Okay, Cassie, is that your understanding, that the building's going to be taken down?
Yes, that's basically what I think, Scott, you and I requested that at the last, and maybe you also said you were okay with that. I can't remember.
I don't think we said definitively that this was what we were okay with. We just asked them to at least come back with a
Come back
plan
with a
so that we
plan.
had something
So part of the
substantial to
agreement
actually
is the buildings are
go
coming
with.
down.
Yes.
Yes.
And the space that is occupied below the buildings is going to be used for what?
Parking.
And there's an agreement for that.
The agreement is that it will look like the plan that I'm presenting here tonight.
And the site plan is binding, like, just like we talked
No,
about with
I
this,
just
right?
needed to have somebody say, yes, the agreement is
Yeah.
there's going to be a parking lot, two buildings are coming down. Isn't it that simple?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
yes.
I still would like to hear from,
Yeah. Could we have
Neighbors.
members of the public? Anybody have any comments?
thank you, Jeff.
Sure. Paul? Yes, up to the mic.
Speak into the mic.
Thank you very much. I'm Paul Lucier, Waterville resident, and my wife and I have built almost 100 homes here in this community, in the city, so I'm all about that. I'm here for the next item. But what I want to say here is that I was a code officer for 5 years. I was a planning board member, but I toured those very facilities. Long time ago, seems like, but they were derelict then. They're more so today. And it's not just about parking, but the churches needs that wheelchair ramp. They need the handicap drive-up access to continue their ministry, which is, in my opinion, is as valuable to the city as housing. They serve a real need there, and so I would just like to see this move forward for them, let them get on with their plans, and that's all I have to say unless someone has a question. Because it's not looking good for the city and the newspaper to keep kicking this can down the road.
So I don't have any concerns with a handicap ramp, and I support the church in having a handicap ramp for sure. But according to this plan, I don't see anything that's impeding the handicap ramp. If this is the existing building that's being torn down, they don't look as though one impedes the other. So I'm not arguing any point other than to say that if what we're hanging our hats on is that we're only doing this and we're only tearing these buildings down for a handicap ramp, I don't see that that's really the case according to this plan. But unless I'm reading something wrong.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, in answer to your question, the building, the duplex that's in back is about 10 feet from the back wall of the parking lot, or back wall of the church.
Yeah.
That's,
How wide is your ramp?
the ramp's going to be about 12 feet, because we have to go up and over and down to get the ADA compliant access.
So again, I mean, but if you look at this plan, according to this plan, the 12-foot ramp does not look like what's there for a building that's being torn down is impeding it at all. That dashed line that is the existing building that's coming down is not in the way of the ramp.
He's missing the second building, I think, right? Do you see?
No.
This,
Right
this
there.
is,
That dashed line is the other building, according
this
to this.
dash line is the second building. It would give us about a foot or less between the
But
building.
it's still doable. So all I'm saying is that building is not actually impeding this ramp. So if this is the only reason that we're tearing
No,
down
we're-
buildings, then that doesn't really make sense to me in my mind, according to this plan.
Okay, thank you for your opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak? Yeah, sure. Bobby.
Okay, I'm not going to rehash much. It's a done deal. To your concern, traffic is an issue. Two-way traffic in and out there is going to be a problem. They've already had one parishioner hit. I think this is going to create a situation that could cause another parishioner to get hit, or my kid, or any other person who walks in the neighborhood. Given that my fence was hit by the plow truck last year and fixed eventually, I'd say historically, Jeff's assessment of where the snow goes is highly inaccurate. They put it right where the driveway is. So unless they change their game, they're going to have to figure that one out. Where the area you spoke about in the back by my fence, I mean, they plow it completely against the fence. I've never seen a truck come and remove the snow. They just leave it there. Which again, I mean, it's not a problem, but I mean, just they're not providing accurate information. So, and yeah, to Mr. Dunn's point, me and the neighbors feel the same way. If this is about handicap access, knocking down two buildings has nothing to do with handicap access, but that's not here nor there. They're going away. We just want to make sure that the traffic flow in this neighborhood is not insane, because that's a big concern. So my only ask would be one way. Just, I don't get his logic. So one way. Thank you.
Bobby, may I ask, have you been asked about the buffers in between the property?
Yeah, I mean.
And are you comfortable with those?
I mean, this is what I'm getting. No, but I'm going to take what I'm getting. Like, this is what I'm being offered. I'm going to take that because it's better than residential D, because I don't trust a word they say. They would not put a buffer up unless they had a contract to put their name to it. So with that said, this is what I get, and this is I'm accepting it.
So a couple of questions then, both to Bobby and Jeff in this situation. Your concern with traffic, are you mostly worried about where it's coming out onto Park Street? Are you afraid where it's coming out onto Park Place, or all of it, or?
We, as neighbors, have asked for that revision. We've been told that the fire chief or police said that it's not necessary to put up a fence or a wall on Park Place.
Okay.
We would prefer that, because even though that's the way it is now, it's not necessarily good. So, I mean, if we're going to be making changes here, we would like to see some safety improvements. But that's not in the cards either. So I'm just asking for one-way access in and out. I think it's a simple change.
How many parking spots are there now?
Can I ask you some questions, Bobby, in a minute,
I
okay?
think there are 22.
22
And,
now?
Yep, and we're going to add, with these closer spots, we're going to add 30 more spaces.
30 more.
Yeah, so we'll have a total of 52 there. So that's why we need two means of getting out, because if somebody were to come out of this and want to turn left, they could back up the whole parking lot. This is the smoothest way to do this. One thing we are doing is closing, right now there's an existing driveway that goes out right next to Mr. Dabrowski's driveway. We're closing that off. That's going to become a parking space. So
Can you show us where you're talking about?
that's right up in the corner here.
But Jeff,
So-
really, you're not closing it off because people can park there and then back onto Park Place, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so.
But it's not going to be a channelized driveway going
Right,
out there.
instead, there's going to be like 15 of them.
There are 50.
Really?
there are-
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
And then as soon as there's no car parked there, everybody still could potentially go
Yeah.
that way.
Which is what they do now.
Yeah, okay.
And that, if we do nothing, that's going to be a parking lot because that's what it's required to be. We're not making any changes over there other than putting up the privacy fence. So we're not doing anything, new and different there.
Well, but we are adding 30 more cars to the area, right? And it's already pretty congested. So my thought with the two-way is it's just, sorry, Bill, having 2 cars coming in and out and 3 egresses and then 11 onto Park Place is a lot of congestion for cars that are coming all at the same time, right? Like, have you ever gone to an after-school pickup?
Yeah.
It's full-on chaos, right? And there's only one way in and one way out. And you get stuck in the line, but it's there for a reason to keep a little order so that no one gets hurt, right? So I just have a little bit of concern about all of that. And I understand that it's been, talked about. The police chief has looked at it, but
Would you be more comfortable if we had the loop in the driveway, in the parking lot, one way in, one way out?
yeah,
And because that doesn't buy us any more parking spaces. People are going to do what they're going to do. We can't control that. So if we were to paint that one way, which we could, there's no guarantee people would adhere to that. Because we could, yeah.
Right, I mean,
Yeah,
I
but,
mean,
there is somebody that can actually talk to all the people that are going there.
yeah, if they're only, yeah. But, yeah,
I just think it would be safer for everyone, but
it's hard to know because.
yeah,
I mean,
I respectfully would disagree
Yeah.
based on my professional opinion. Because the sooner you get people out, the less frustrated they'll be. They can go home and watch the football.
It's still kind of
I hope they're
annoying.
not leaving church frustrated, Steve.
Well, it's still kind of annoying to leave the AYCC parking lot, but I understand why they did it, and it's safer.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I,
So,
Yeah,
Will
absolutely.
you lose, wait, one more question about this. Will you lose parking if it's one way in, one way
No.
out?
It's the same amount.
I think it's the same.
Yeah.
Remember, additional parking space doesn't create more commuters. They're
But it puts
already,
them all in one space.
they're already arriving.
Yeah.
And the reason that one of our parishioners got run over by a car is because they're forced to walk down the street. So the premise that the parking lot creates commuters is not the problem. The parking lot protects the commuters that are already coming. That's the issue. They're already arriving. They're already there. It doesn't, parking lots don't create new traffic.
No, you're right, but I don't even think that that's the argument as much as the fact that if we're creating a parking lot and we're designing a parking lot, we want it to be as safe as possible. And if we're putting a whole bunch of traffic all just entering one street willy-nilly or all over the place, yes, it might still be safer for your parishioners because they're in the parking lot, but there's still community members that are going to be in the area that are still going to have to deal with that traffic.
We hired Hodgson because they tend not to create unsafe parking lots.
Yep.
So we trust their design. But there's not going to be any less traffic merely because there's some alternate change. Part of the problem, and I think that you're pretty mistaken on the spacing of the building and the creation of a handicap space.
I'm just looking at the drawing. That's the only.
Yeah, I think you're misunderstanding the drawing. What has to happen is you can't with a 10-foot egress from the back of the wall of a building that's on the historic register.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't demolish that building, what has to be built is not merely a bare, brute ramp that goes up the side of the wall. You have to build a complete entryway for people.
Mm-hmm.
And an entryway is not going to meet code unless it at least takes over a great deal of part of the current duplex.
Is that what's being shown, though? Because that's not what I'm seeing on this drawing.
Right, but you understand what the amended contract zone, this is not the final drawing for the handicap access. The amended contract zone simply is the city allowing us to have that, and then we come back and show you what that looks like. But the decision tonight is, will you amend the contract zone to allow for that use?
Yes, but what we asked for was a plan to show us what was happening. And if this is the plan that you brought us, according to this plan, the handicap ramp and the building are not impeding one another.
No, what the amended contract does is allow us to put the handicap access there, but then when it comes time to build the handicap access, we'll have to come back with an architectural drawing to show you what that looks like. All you're saying is, yes, we will allow you to build handicap access there, but the handicap access is not going to be just some bare ramp with, going up the back of the building.
Okay.
It has to match the historicity of the building.
And that's all great, but
Right.
I guess I don't understand how we're not saying the same things.
I want to ask you for clarification. So, and again, all right, how would you, if you had a parent that couldn't walk and they needed to go to that church and go in that back, right? I feel like that little rectangle there is not the ramp?
It is.
Okay,
It is the
right.
Ramp.
Okay.
On the
so,
plan. It's
And
a
the
new
dashed-
ADA
Right.
accessible ramp building.
So that there, how would you get cars in and out to drop people off? Like, I mean, even if, forget about the fact that we're talking about people who might want to handicap, disabled, whatever, people that want to drive themselves to church and park and then go in a ramp, go in the ramp into the church. How would you get, if the buildings were still there? And this is a serious question. How would you get people to the ramp and
Currently, they can
drop 'em
drive
off?
right to, that's a driveway.
But
That's
there
not-
are
that-
two buildings that are blocked. You can drive somebody in and then pull. I guess if I was dropping my dad off there, for example, I could pull in, drop my dad off, and then back out. But you can't pull my dad couldn't drive himself there.
No.
Get out of his vehicle and park and keep his vehicle there and then come back out after. So if we're creating a shuttle service for the church, we could leave the buildings there and somehow put the handicap parking elsewhere shuttle, I mean, how are you getting the handicapped people to
There
the
wouldn't be a
ramp?
place to put handicap parking, I don't think, if they're.
Right,
like-
you have to have handicap parking for those who choose to park
Handicap
close.
parking is very different than what we're talking about. We're talking about, they're saying that the ramp can't be installed with the building there, and I don't see how
We're
that's
saying that the
case.
usage of the ramp is inhibited by your proposal not to demolish that larger building.
I guess I just don't
You have to,
understand how you would put
for instance, when people come from the veterans' home, they pull in with a van, and now they have to pull up on the front lawn of the church over
And I
curbs.
understand
And
that.
so that allows them to move the vans around, and once you build the handicap access, there's not going to be any way to do that safely, I don't think.
I would like to clarify something. What you said, I believe, is incorrect. You're probably mistaken. You said that you would need to come back and show us the architectural diagram of the ramp. That's incorrect. The way this is written is it says that the site plan for the parking lot, any changes to the site plan of the parking lot, the
you'll have to-
handicap ramp is not part of the parking lot. Technically, you don't even have to build the handicap ramp. You could tear those buildings down, build the parking lot, and walk away, and you're not breaking any rules.
All right, I'll have to ask Mr. Lee to address that. I think I'm in over my head legally there.
Bill, am I correct in that? That the handicap ramp design and placement is not part of what would be under the purview of the planning board? And I'm not saying that I want it to be.
The diagram itself does not have the handicap ramp shown on it. And, I mean, if it's the planning board's preference to have that handicap ramp shown, and that'd be a question to be addressed to Mr. Allen as the engineer, because I imagine they could, that could be put in.
Yeah, again, I was just wanting to clarify the statement that you made, that you would have to come back and show us that, and I'm saying, no, you don't.
Right, yeah, that's not our
I
intent.
want everyone to make sure we're on the same page.
And this is
So-
where the ramp will go. The ramp is going to be enclosed. We want to be able to have somebody get out of their car, walk into a heated space, and go up to the building. Because that saves the process of having all of the, shoveling, icing, a cold ramp, or just being exposed to the cold for longer. So what we're showing right down here is the handicap accessible spaces going to a sidewalk with a ramp or a dip in the sidewalk, going into the building here, having a small reception, or not a reception area, but just a level spot. And then the ramps will go up inside an enclosed space and into the building. So this is the handicap ramp that will be inside this block here. No, we haven't designed exactly how it's going to look inside, but this is a site plan, not an architectural review.
Yeah, and I did want to also make a comment about the one-way traffic in the parking lot, right? You're absolutely right. It's not going to reduce the traffic. It's going to control it. So it would slow it down. And I think that's the ultimate goal, is to slow the egress traffic coming out of the parking lot, to slow it down. Because if there are...
On the other hand, let me
there are 3 streams of traffic going out onto Park
Right.
Street.
Let me look at it, and the alternative is that people turning right onto Park Street made a lot to go around to that one, so they could turn right. People turning left may use the one closer to the building. That way they're diverging and won't interfere.
I personally don't think there's enough room if there's a lot of traffic, and if there's a lot of traffic at that time, there's not going to be enough room for people to make a left-hand turn out onto Park Street and then hit a red light, and people are going to be blocking the street.
Has this issue been addressed with the public safety?
Yes.
Okay, then what are they saying?
They're
Is
saying it's
saying
fine.
something different than what we're saying here?
Public safety, the police chief has looked at this, according to Mr. Lee, and said, this is
Has
fine.
the city engineer signed off on
I did ask him if he's okay with that, but we were talking about specifically.
I don't know if the
what-
city engineer, whether you had a conversation with the city engineer. I had a conversation with the police chief regarding the safety issues that had been raised regarding traffic exiting or entering Park Place.
So it's just.
And the
basically
police
beyond
chief's recommendation was that those 2 parking spaces closest to Park Street should not be used for parking. I asked him whether he thought the restriction should go farther to the north, the 3rd space, the 4th space. He said he did not feel that was necessary. Those parking spaces are each 9 feet in width. There's going to be a 6-foot sidewalk, and he felt that provided an adequate distance for safety for anybody who would be turning onto Park Place from Park Street or backing out of a parking space to be able to have good visibility.
Bill,
And that's why that's incorporated into this plan on the recommendation of the police.
did he look at the other 2 egresses, though, that are onto Park Street? Because I
Yes,
think,
he had the diagram, the entire diagram.
because
Yes.
if you're looking at that first road, right, and you're trying to make a left, you're going to have the same visibility issue having 2 cars right there.
Well, the car can pull out to the edge of the sidewalk here. So if it's a 6-foot sidewalk, and then this is about a little 4-foot island, we're about 10 feet back. That is the definition of a line of sight, is 10 feet back from the edge of the traveled way.
I know, but I don't understand how his concern of entering off of Park Place doesn't coincide with the other 2 parking spots directly adjacent, because if you're making the same turn, you're going to have the same visibility issue.
I don't know, I don't understand what his thoughts were, but he did have access to this drawing, this exact drawing, and he said it was okay. So I believe he is a good judge of that.
We didn't ask the city engineer to look at the 2-way traffic in the parking lot.
I mean, to be fair, we have a city engineer for a reason.
I'm sorry, what, Ann?
I only asked the city engineer about what the police chief had said at the end of Park Place. I didn't talk to him about the 2-way traffic within the parking lot, so that would be a fair question for the city engineer, who's the one who reviews our traffic issues, not the police chief. The police chief, as you know, doesn't review our plans.
So I guess my question is it possible for us to approve the, recommendation to council to rezone and then have further discussion after the city, and make sure the city engineer can review the plan and is comfortable having that many egresses onto the street, and look at the site plan again? Maybe we just change the traffic pattern or something of the site plan for one way, or whatever he would be comfortable with. I'm not comfortable signing off on the site plan if the city engineer hasn't seen it. I don't know why he hasn't.
I agree with that.
Right, I agree with that, sorry, I'm sorry.
Does that make sense to you, Jeff?
I mean,
Practically, no, because I'm an engineer, Andy is an engineer, we have.
Well, I understand that, but
Yeah.
your
He
job
does
as an
review
engineer
your
is to
plan.
protect the interest of your client, and Andy's job as an engineer is to protect the interest of the city. Like you different clients, right? So
Yeah,
I
but-
understand what you're saying,
but
but you
public
could have
safety-
professional opinion disagreement. Like that's why we have our city engineer look over the plans, right?
If we go back to the first thing we talked about tonight, which was 415 KMD, you said you spoke to the city engineer and they made a recommendation for a right-hand turn only.
Yes.
I would like to get the city engineer's recommendation on these 3 egresses onto Park Street.
And I'm not saying like we have to postpone it or anything. I'm just saying
Yeah.
like
If-
the site plan
Yeah,
portion.
I don't mind getting the city engineer's feedback on this, because he is a very smart man. But I just, frustrated because I've been flogging this for 18 months. Since the church bought this property. And so if you will refer it back to council with the approved zone change, I will agree to speak to the city engineer about it.
Okay.
I honestly don't think we can send a recommendation back until we've approved a site plan. Because it's what we're sending back in the new contract zone is saying that we will review and approve the site plan.
Well, and we are, right? And we have questions about the site
So-
plan. But I mean, any other change that they would make to the site plan, they would have to come to us too. Like, I don't understand why, those are two different requests.
Right, but I'm just saying, if it gets approved and then we can never come to an agreement on a site plan, then what?
They can't build it, I guess, right? Like, they can't.
But the
build
buildings
without a
can be
site.
torn down.
Well, they're vacant. I don't know what to
Right,
say.
it's,
If I may, we have,
So-
I understand your frustration, but believe me, I believe we've come a very, very long ways from the beginning.
Agreed.
And if it's this small issue that I feel is small, but I think it's important to have our engineer take a look at it and give us his blessing, and we can send it along, and we
I
crossed
don't
our
think-
Ts and dotted
yeah.
our Is.
yeah, I mean, we're talking about another 2 weeks.
Are you meeting on the 28th? or-
Yeah, well, we will if,
Yeah.
if we need to, we will.
Right.
Okay. And certainly within 2 weeks, I could speak with the city engineer about this.
Do you have a quorum for the 28th? Do you have a quorum for the 28th?
I
without me?
asked for a quorum quite some time ago, so I don't know if anyone's plans have changed. Maybe we could see,
I can still come.
I'll be here.
I cannot be here.
okay.
I do want to say, in Jeff's defense, if we're putting it off another 2 weeks here, then it's another 2 weeks until it goes to the city council, and then they have to take 2 votes. So it is prolonging it.
Well, and I understand
Significantly.
Jeff's
And-
frustration for sure, but I
and-
also would like it to be said that this group has not had it for 18 months. I mean,
Actually, I did come with a site plan sometime in like October of '23.
No, this, I
This-
think he means
this- this group
This
here,
configuration.
You have not, that's
Right,
correct.
this configuration
So.
of planning board, yeah.
Yep.
So can we just put into words, like, one clean statement, what we're suggesting, without making a motion necessarily?
Sam, I think Bobby had something else that he
Oh,
wanted to
sorry.
say
My apologies.
before we get too deep.
Again, as I mentioned before, I don't trust them, so anything that we can get definitive, like, I don't feel safe walking away being like, oh, they'll do it. They're not going to do it. That's just the way they've been with everything they've handled with the neighbors. I don't trust their word, so I would appreciate if you guys held them to it and asked them to come back with a revised change. And just to get this out in the open and that's recorded, if they were concerned about handicap access, they could requested to redo their sidewalk, which is, honestly, it's horrible to walk on. So if they're concerned about their parishioners getting to the church safely, I don't know why they haven't fixed their sidewalk. Also, they have parking spots that are close enough that they could reserve handicap. I don't see any handicap spots reserved in their parking lot. So if it's really about access for the handicap, they could have mitigated issues in the current state right now. So if they're worried about this process taking too long, they can do things in the interim to make sure that their parishioners are safe.
Bobby, if I may, sir, when you were up here earlier, you mentioned that there's an agreement, and that's what I got, so that's what I got. And I don't like that. I want to know, what is it that you feel would be ideal for you as a neighbor? It may not come to pass, but I think it's important that we hear what you say as a neighbor.
As a neighbor, I wish the city fought harder to keep these houses. That's it. So.
Can I ask you,
Mm-hmm.
in a perfect world,
Mm-hmm.
being where we are now with buildings that were, what would you call them?
I don't.
Stripped of their
Gutted?
Gutted? Yeah,
Ransacked?
gutted prior to the sale. Where would you have liked the city to have done something differently? What that would have been legal for us to do?
Not have approved the Ware Butler issue, because I think that created precedent to allow this to go through. Created protections for housing in the city. I mean, there's a lot of things that city council and the city could have done to sort of create situations or laws to eliminate issues like this. So, I mean, it's really the city's fault for letting this happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
When you say created the Ware Butler issue, what part specifically?
The precedent that they were allowed to knock down houses despite knowing what the conditions of the zoning were. So the church knew what the zoning conditions for the houses were, despite wanting to knock them down.
We didn't allow Ware Butler to tear anything down, right?
No, they tore it down.
They tore it down. Yeah, so I
right.
think it was a separate situation, but legally, from what I hear, it's just the city did not feel safe going to court with their money. And us neighbors don't have money to fight this either, so it's sort of, we're looking towards the city to fight this for us, but that's not going to happen.
And just to clarify, it was written in the newspaper, those places were occupied after they were purchased, or while they were purchased. They were
Sorry,
gutted
can you
after.
repeat that?
Those properties were gutted after the purchase happened.
After the purchase?
Yeah.
After your purchase?
Yeah, they purchased it and they gutted it.
That's untrue.
That's
Whatever.
not my understanding.
Completely untrue.
My understanding is it came to them gutted.
My understanding is there were people still living in the properties after the sale happened.
One person,
No,
right?
there was a
Or-
whole entire house people, a woman with a child. No, it's not. Maybe like
Who
there's,
gutted the buildings?
Bill Mitchell.
at the request of them.
No.
Yeah, that's how the sale went through. That's why the sale went through, is because, whatever. You don't have to, I mean, you don't have to, sir, you don't have to be blind. I mean, you can put two and two together. That's all. Again, this is all a moot point, because you're getting your way, you're
Well,
getting your
the
parking lot.
question
So
is, I'm curious, because did Bill gut the buildings and then sell them? Or did he
I'm not-
sell them and then gut the buildings?
the people who were living there were aware of this sale and were told that they had to vacate by the 26th of December, and they knew that I was told this on Halloween night. I was taking my daughter out to go trick-or-treating, and I ran to her neighbor who was packing up, and she's like,
People are forced to vacate their premises upon sale of a building all the time. Literally all the time.
What the timeline is, I am not sure. It's easy
Like,
to see why. It's
unfortunately,
easy to see why
which is
Bill
a huge
Mitchell
problem.
gutted it. I mean,
Like-
it's easy to see why Bill Mitchell gutted it. I mean, why else would he gut buildings that he spent so much money to renovate?
It's not like we're
Okay,
we're not
I think
here-
we're off
Yeah,
topic now. We need to stop with the back and forth. We have a lot on the agenda
Yeah,
tonight.
I mean, it's a moot point.
I'm sorry.
It's going through, so I mean,
But
Can I address the slander?
I really think we need to move on, Steve. I don't know that it's going to help anybody right
I don't
now
think it's going to impact any decisions.
any decision. Okay, thank you.
But I would like to make a motion to postpone until the January 28th meeting so that we can seek advice from the city engineer.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, Newman Homes is requesting preliminary and final plan review for construction of 13 homes on the multifamily development of Meadow Drive. This review is in accordance with Article 8 and 9 of the Site Plan Review Ordinance.
Me again. Can I take a break and get a drink of water?
Yeah, for sure.
Same.
So while we're taking a break, could you let me know,
Yeah, sure, we can take a 5-minute recess.
could you all let me
I already did. I wanted.
We'll move this along very quickly. Brandon Roberge, this gentleman here, has bought the property that's adjacent to the interstate, right here on the bottom of the page. And this is Meadow Drive, part of the Fieldstone Garden, or Fieldstone Meadows subdivision. And he wants to build a small subdivision in here, or it's not actually a subdivision, it's a multifamily development. So this is, I don't know if any of you remember a project we did a little while ago with Kevin Violet up on North Main Street. This is a similar concept to that. We're permitting 13 residential units that are up on the end here. And I can zoom in on that. I just wanted to show you sort of the overall location of where it is. This is, if you look at this page, this is Meadow Drive going around the end here. And between 4 and 6 Meadow Drive, there's a right-of-way that goes down to this lot that Mr. Roberge bought. So we're utilizing that right-of-way and putting a road in there called Elijah Lane, and then another road going off to the side here called Jasmine Lane. So this will have access to, it doesn't have a direct connection to, but it will have access to city water and sewer. The city water and sewer service will be provided by the Meadowbrook, or Fieldstone Gardens subdivision, or homeowners association. I'm not sure the proper legal name of that. This is in the residential D zone, and so the multifamily developments are allowed in there. These are going to be 2 bedroom, 1 bath homes, individual homes, not duplexes. I think I erroneously said that there were duplexes on the public notice, but they are not. And a lot of the infrastructure for the water and sewer was already installed when Mr. Roberge bought the property. So we just need to tap into that for water and sewer. We've received emails today from the water and sewer department saying, yes, they have capacity, but we still need to work out the details of how they will be billed. Right now, sewer, for example, is billed, there's 1 meter for that entire subdivision. So this new development needs to connect to that and be a part of that subdivision for legal purposes for water and sewer. This is a small, relatively small project. It's less than 1 acre, so this part of it will not require DEP approval. And in a future phase, we're going to add more homes here, and that will require going to DEP for either a stormwater or a site location permit. Hopefully we can do it with a stormwater permit. We're reserving space to do the stormwater, and there are several areas of buffers that are part of the stormwater treatment system for the existing subdivision. We're not impacting any of those. We did have wetlands mapped. They had been done before, and the wetlands are just in this area down in the corner here. And so this dashed line here shows a 75-foot setback from the wetlands. So we're not even within 75 feet of the upland edge of the wetlands, so there's no DEP involvement with this part of the development at all. We've talked with the fire department, and their concern was you have to be within 1,500 feet of an existing hydrant so they can hook up their machines. But their stations or their trucks carry 1,500 feet of hose on them. So I measured from where the hydrant is. This is the hydrant right over here, going down along Meadow Lane, down Elijah, and out to the last house on the end here, and we're only 1,050 feet from the hydrant. So they're pretty happy with that, or I don't know how happy they are, but they're accepting of that. The fire chief also, or deputy fire chief, also wrote an email that listed several conditions, and I wrote back to him, but I sent the email to Ann and the city engineer, and I did not copy him, so he has not seen my response. But what I did was go through and kind of bullet point of how we are addressing all of his concerns. So I think we should be all set. To be fair, he has not had a chance to review my responses. We're hoping for final approval tonight because Mr. Roberge is applying for a Maine State Housing Authority grant on Thursday, and that's scored by Maine State Housing Authority on a point system. And one of the points is that you have been to planning boards and you've got your permits, all the necessary permits. So that's why we're hoping to get that tonight. Be happy to answer any questions.
What did you say about 1 acre?
There's less than 1 acre of impervious area. That's rooftops, driveways, parking spaces, and so that's the threshold that DEP looks at before they become involved. Yeah.
Jeff, what's your planned lot size per building?
With a multifamily development, there are no lot sizes. The houses are sort of schematic on there that you can put them anywhere you want. As long as you don't have, so there are no individual lots. It's kind of like a condoized type of development.
Will they be individually owned, the property that the houses sit on? Or is
Yes.
it more like they're buying a whole acreage and they're just leasing out the land that the houses in the city?
The homes will be individually owned.
So they'll be deeded as individual homes and lots?
Yes, and there will be a homeowners association that will pay for maintenance of the road, unless we can talk the city into plowing it, that sort of thing.
So they're going to own the lot that they're on?
They're going to own the house that they're in. It's like they own
condo.
the house,
Yeah.
but they don't own the land.
I'm just trying to understand because he asked how big the lot was, and you said that there is no lot, but then they're going to own the lot that they're on. So how much
Yeah.
lot do they own? I think was the question that he's trying to get clarification for.
In
Yeah.
our deeds and bylaws are restrictive. Lot owners have specific voting rights, homeowners are different. Typically, a homeowner and the lot owner are the same. So if they're going to be part of if they're going to be their own association, that's fine. If they're going to be part of our association, we have certain bylaws and restrictive covenants for the development that we'd like
Yeah.
to make sure they're abiding by.
Sir, who are you? I'm sorry.
I'm number 4, Meadow Drive. I'm the person who's going to be most impacted by the sight lines.
Okay. Do you want to come here to?
I'd be happy.
Okay.
I don't really want to, but I will.
Darryl, could I just
Yeah,
give
you-
some context?
Yeah.
I just want to give the board some context here. My wife and I have been developing in this area for over 20 years. It was never our intention to sell any of this property, but we got old, my wife got sick, and we basically stopped building there 3 years ago. Times change, and we adapted with those times. The housing market has changed. I can tell you that if I were building today, I would be looking at the same concept, smaller homes, smaller lots, better managed. And I think what he's doing is fine. But Darrell's right, he is the most impacted. But all the infrastructure, the adjacent water lines, the sewer mains, the sewer pumps, that was all put in by us years ago because we saw this day coming. So this is an extension, if you will, or the expansion of what we've already started over there. So if any of you have driven in that whole neighborhood, this is just expanding that.
And the design is one that it's not a unique to this situation design, right? This is something that is almost not rubber stamped by Maine Housing, but it's something that is in their purview, right? Yeah. It's not a new concept.
Well, that's fine. That's
I'm-
perfectly okay.
That's more for clarification for me.
The reasoning for my concerns is that I'm on the board of directors and we have specific requirements for single-family homes, not lot sizes, single-level dwellings. We have voting rights for, changes in bylaws and whatever we do at our annual meetings. There's a lot of unknowns in regard to how this, let's call it subdivision for what it's worth, is going to impact what we do as our association. It sounds to me as if they're going to be their own separate association on that property, which is fine. Okay, then they have their voting rights, and there won't be any part of us at all, other than we would find a way to make their utilities tie back into what the city's charging us as a development. That's the reason for my questions, for the most part. Now, I guess the question I have is, are these subsidized homes?
The way Maine Housing's funding is those are private bank loans
Okay.
that are based around public
Thank you.
housing laws.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, that's great, all right.
I mean, I guess that would be a question for the landowner. Right?
I
Can you turn on the mic?
Yeah, I can address a couple of things you mentioned too. The lots, so with the condo association, they have limited access to the land that they're on. I'll have to check with the attorney that's developing the condo documentation to see if they technically are owners of that piece of land that's, directly, but they do have limited access to like the land where their house is, the land on either side of it, to the road, the backyard, So they have a certain portion that's just theirs to use.
Okay.
And then as far as the homeowners association aspect goes, we're still working out the details, and we plan to end up having meetings with the existing HOA and trying to see what the best path forward is, if it's to just come in under the existing HOA, if it's to do a separate HOA, if it's to do a sub HOA. So kind of all the options are on the table, and we definitely intend on having meetings with you guys to sort of work out all those details and how that relationship would work and what the best kind of path forward is.
So the other comment that I have, and then I'll step down, was this is not the drawing that I picked up about
That's the
a few
one
weeks
that
ago in regards to looking at the way that the development was going to be laid out. This is actually more impactful to my sight line than the way the other one was done prior. Now, I'm sure there were restrictions that were required based upon wetlands and what have you to do that. It's kind of just unfortunate to see almost 5 houses behind my house now instead of 3. Now, fences make good neighbors too. I'll just leave that comment as well. So my questions have been answered that I had at this point. So we don't know where we are in regards to restrictive covenants and bylaws and a homeowners association. We know they're going to be single-family homes, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, on shared common ground. And we'll have to figure out how we have voting rights if they do join our association. That's something for us to work out, not for you guys. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And one last thing for me in context. When we originally created this subdivision, Meadow Drive is a 50-site subdivision. And the people who were buying into it, they were my customers, but they were also becoming my neighbors because we've lived there. We've lived in 3 different houses now in that subdivision. And my current house is my last one. But we did a conceptual plan of what it might look like at full build-out. And so behind Darrell's house, it showed lots. Again, not quite so many, but that concept seemed to make sense 20 years ago. But if I were doing it today, the market and the housing needs, I'd be building smaller homes as well, maybe even smaller.
How many houses in the original, in your development?
There will be, when it's fully built out in our portion of the Fieldstone Landing, it'll be 50 homes.
So that 50 is not including these?
It does not include
Okay.
that. Currently, there are 7 unpurchased lots left, if I'm not mistaken, in the neighborhood.
Okay.
I don't know if any of you have been through what Paul's developed up in that area, but I have very often, and the houses are, it's almost like a storybook village. Absolutely gorgeous. The colors, the maintenance of their lawns, the roads, the site, everything is just absolutely, did a magnificent job, Paul. Congratulations.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. One thing I like that what Brandon's doing is, as I see it, some of my customers were old when we built their houses, and they're even older now. Hard to believe, I've aged as well. But my point is that they used to be into flowers and gardens and maintaining their properties. Now it's becoming a problem for them. So if he takes over that, you know, the snow removal and the lawn work, which I think he's planning to do, it really helps the people living there. It makes it an easier place to live, in my opinion, so.
So I did have a question about the plan too, Jeff, because the one that I was emailed, was it
About a week ago?
January 9th or something like
Yep.
that? It has 2 homes off of that like little turnaround.
Right. This is a
Unit 11
turnaround
and
that's
10.
put in here for the police department. And speaking with the city engineer about this, because we're buddies, we noted that due to the grading here, it would be more difficult for the sewer for those homes to get out to the sewer main. So what we did was move a couple of those homes out here, and you know, the grading that's in here, the location of the homes is purely schematic. You know, it's going to be somewhere right along this road. We're not going to have longer driveways. These are shown with 40-foot driveways. I think Mr. Auberge was talking about doing smaller driveways. So it's going to be perhaps even more compact than this. But what this is doing will allow us to move houses around to where they can be best served and where there's a demand for them. But yes, the original design did have a couple of houses down in this area, and those were, I didn't want to make water run uphill.
That's fair.
So that's why the change occurred.
So is this the final drawing?
This is the final, actually, the drawing that you'll sign is this other one, the larger scale, because it is technically a subdivision, and the subdivision regulations require that you show the entire lot. So again, this is just a corner of the lot here. So this is but this is the plan right now.
And again, in clarification, sorry to interrupt, but Mr. Auberge bought my remaining 40 acres of land. This is just a corner of it. So you'll be seeing him again, maybe not me.
We hope we'll see you as well.
Yeah.
So I guess my only question though, Jeff, becomes, this is a final site plan review that you're asking for, right? So,
Yes.
But you're saying that this plan will change?
This plan could change because
If the plan does change, would you come back to us? Is that what?
if we added more than 13, when we add more than 13 units, we will have to come back. This is the general layout that they will be. Whether the houses are 10 feet this way, 10 feet that way, that's still allowable to be determined based on the multifamily zone regulations. But this is a close concept of what you're going to have.
Okay.
Any other questions from members of the public or comments?
Hi, my name's Jim. My name's Jim LeClaire. I'm one of the owners in that development, or partial owner. The only problem I have with this happening so fast is that we just spent, I don't know what, 200,000? 300,000 on putting a new water system in, because of the well that was in the original one was just not sufficient for what we liked. Okay, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but you know, the water, we had to clean out the wells and the lines every so often and stuff. He does not have permission to use those lines, as far as I'm concerned. And neither does he have a line to use the sewer. We own the sewer. We maintain the sewer. How can you guys approve all this stuff without anything like that put in place?
I can take this one. So the Kennebec Water District did provide guidance on that for us, and one of the conditions of approval, it says that the Kennebec Water District has to be provided satisfactory documentation regarding ability to join and ultimate acceptance into the HOA for the proposed development or until a water main extension has been provided to this subdivision.
Right.
So that's how.
Yeah,
Does that answer your question?
not really.
So the existing HOA and this developer have to come to an agreement, and that's part of the condition. We don't arbitrate those agreements.
Okay.
And the sewer. Yep.
Because we had a problem with the sewer and we had to fix it ourselves.
Both of those are in this document.
Is that something you can also shed some light on, Paul?
I would love to do that.
I bet you would.
Keep in mind, if I hadn't gotten old, my wife hadn't gotten sick, Brandon wouldn't be here, and we would already be building over there. But the fact is that we planned ahead from day one for this whole area to be developed. And so, yes, a lot of the sewer lines and water lines that we use as the current subdivision are on the property he's bought, that I sold him. We have an easement to use that, and he has an easement to go. We share some things, okay? The well we had, it had PFAS in it. That's hard to believe. And there was grant money being offered. We jumped on it. That's why that well is being changed out. But he will share in the expenses of those water lines, water mains, the sewer lines, and the sewer mains. And it's all designed for it. It has the capacity, as will be proven over the next 8 or 10 years that he's building over there.
But does he have approval to use it?
I sold him my full development rights
Okay,
because I didn't want this to happen.
right. So it sounds
You're a
like.
good neighbor, but you can't have, a developer's got to go, he's got to be building, he's got to get it done, and it can't be input like somebody would like to have.
So you're saying part of the sale was, in fact, includes access to the pre-existing structure that belongs to this, that is a part of this HOA, but.
That's
But
correct.
the rights to sell it belong to you as the developer, correct?
Yep, I had the right to sell those things. And some of the brightest legal minds in the city and out of the city, in the general area, their mission was to do two things: to protect the existing homeowners association, of which I'm a member and own property there, and to also protect the developer, Brandon Roberge. And so.
And the easements go both ways.
Right. So what you're saying is that while you understand his concern.
I do.
It's moot because the sale agreement already addresses that concern.
And if you have any further questions, look, come over to my house. I'll lay out the plans. I'll show you where all of that is and how all of that works. I think you'll be more than satisfied as to his responsibility to take care of that infrastructure that we use, that he is going to be tying into and sharing that.
But that's only like part of the problem. You guys are rushing to get this, you're rushing to get this thing done, but he doesn't have an agreement yet.
I think it's conditional.
It's conditional to the building, yeah, so he can't start building until the agreement
Okay.
exists.
But the guarantee for the agreement came along with the purchase of the land, correct?
I don't know, I didn't purchase it.
Yeah,
That's what you just said.
it's not really our
Right, so but just
concern.
bring it up, so it's not our problem, but it was also implied in the sale.
Sure, but yeah, I mean, the conditions as they're written are Kennebec Water District and Waterville Sewage District have to be shown those agreements are in place.
It says prior to connecting, like this is on their plans, like it goes along with the plan. Prior to connecting to Fieldstone Meadows private system, the district requires an appropriate agreement from Fieldstone Meadows and Newman Homes to be provided that acknowledges that the district will send one bill to Fieldstone Meadows for both developments. Fieldstone Meadows will send quarterly reports to the district identifying the number of homes in Newman Homes development that are connected to their system. The agreement should also clearly state who is responsible for maintaining, repairing, and upgrading the shared system.
Just one last point of clarification for the board is that all the sewer lines and all the water lines in the development and the property he's sold are private. They're maintained.
Right.
Those lines are maintained by the homeowners association. The sewer district and the water district never set foot on there. Okay? So
That was from the sewer district that.
Jim, the issue that you had, is it resolved?
What's that?
The issue that you had, was it resolved?
I'd have to look into it more. I mean, if he granted all that stuff, were we informed of it up front? You know, that he was giving away all these rights? You know, I don't know that right now.
I think he retained them when he
Right,
when he
he's
built
the, he's the developer, so.
Yeah.
Sorry.
my wife and I were the only people involved. We didn't have any partners. And, but we talked about this at the annual meeting in September. And so we've kept nothing hidden from the membership. And I live there. Anybody has a question, they can call me, they can come see me.
He basically just kept
Yeah.
he kept the right to be able to retain the right to continue developing the rest of his property, you know, and at this point, he's just kind of passing that baton on.
But he passed the ownership of the water and sewer over to the HOA.
So there's easements that go both ways between the developer and the HOA.
Well, an easement allows you to go over somebody's property,
Exactly.
but it doesn't actually give the ownership of that pipe to anybody.
If you look at your deeds.
Technically,
if
I'm
you-
right, right?
If you look at your deeds.
The water line,
and
we
if-
just put this new water system in ourselves,
Yeah.
okay? I mean, like I said, it was like 4,000 a house.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're just getting it set up. And, you know, do we know for sure that that water system is going to handle, I mean, you're talking now about putting 13 houses up. You can have technically 4 people in a house.
Excuse
I mean, you
me,
got 2
Jim.
bedrooms.
Prior to connecting to the city water.
I just don't like the speed that this
The
is
water,
happening at.
the water district and our
I'd like to see
engineer.
So-
I'd like to see you get the agreements with the HOA.
Can I
Yes, I'm
just
sorry.
clarify? So it does say before there can be an occupancy permit, KWD, so the Kennebec
Yeah.
Water District, has to be provided satisfactory documentation regarding the ability to join by the HOA.
Yeah.
So like those agreements have to be in place, or you
But
can't.
actually, it's
you
the
can't have anybody
occupancy
live-
of the unit, but he can go ahead and build all the units in the meantime.
No, Dan,
I mean,
do you want-
it wouldn't do him
Dan-
a whole lot of good to build a bunch
Right.
of
Well,
buildings that he
hold on.
can't
Please
occupy.
stop.
You know,
Please, I'm getting tired and grouchy. Dan, can you provide a little clarification?
Yes, I can speak to this. Under state statute and the building code, I cannot issue a building permit for anything without an approved waste disposal. So this agreement would have to be in place before I issue any permits. I'd have to get the approval from the water and sewer district before I can issue building permits.
So
Thank you.
basically, they have to agree to all of these conditions before Dan can issue any building permits
Yep.
or any site
Yep.
work.
And what that means is that whatever is done, the KMD, the water district will sign off only if it doesn't negatively affect anyone that's drawing water from that system. Is that correct?
Well, I can't speak to that. That's up to their engineers to calculate, which I assume they would take into consideration, yeah.
Okay.
All of that was calculated in the beginning when we got permission from Kennebec Water District to bring in that 8-inch water main into this booster pump building that we have. They looked at the statistical flow we have in the 50 units that are there. They projected build-out of an additional 60 or 80 more homes, and it was designed around that. He will have his own booster pumps, if you will, or ability to add more pumps into the building we built. And the sewage system is built to handle more flow than anybody would ever build there, because we did it that way. We upsized all the pipes back in the beginning, and those were engineered as well. We didn't dream that up. We had,
No, I understand, Paul. I think their concerns are valid, though, making sure that there's going to be a agreement in place before someone connects to the water system that they're paying for. That's a valid concern for people to have that are maintaining a private water system. I think that's just the concern that I was getting. Not that there isn't enough water. I think.
Yeah, I think we all agree on that.
Yeah. And so I was just trying to to help them understand that their concern will be addressed before any building can take place.
Brandon's way easier to get along with than I am.
No, I know. I was just trying to help provide a little clarification. Are there any other questions? Yes.
Thank you. This is, let's just take this to the further out. Let's just say everything goes according to Hoyle, board agrees to, or the association agrees, and we're construction. So my question to Brandon would be, since my property would be impacted pretty heavily with traffic and construction and dust, is it your plan to do one home at a time, or are you going to send a crew in and bang out 13 of these things all at once? Essentially tear off the Band-Aid all at once, or you're going to gradually peel it off my skin in my house?
So the goal and the plan currently, if we're awarded the help from Main State Housing and all this moves forward how we want it to, then yes, the goal would be to try to do this, all 13 of these, pretty much where we can roll the road infrastructure would happen at once, and then the subcontractors, so you have your excavation guy go from one house lot to the next, concrete guy following behind him, one to the next, framer behind him, one to the next, to the next, and basically domino it like a Gantt chart.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So to give me an idea from a standpoint of my project planning calendar, is that going to be from first dig of the shovel 6 months, a year, 5 years?
First dig of the shovel. So, I mean, we won't know if we got the approval from Main State Housing for.
Let's assume you get all that's done, and guess what? Mr. Bradstreet has given you he has given you the authority to move forward. You have all your permits, and you're going to start coming down by my house with a grader, and you're starting.
So right now, the current schedule, which is an aggressive one, is 12 months to do the 13 houses.
Okay.
That may not happen.
No, I'm not going to hold you to it.
So
if you were telling me 10 years, you and I'd have a different conversation. So.
Well, it has to be done within 2 years unless we grant him an extension.
Okay. Thank you.
That's what the ordinance says, so.
Yep. And the clock would start ticking as soon as we.
And so
approve.
the ordinance says that they have 2 years to complete, a year to start construction, right? And 2 to complete. And the clock starts ticking when we give approval, right? Or is it when Dan issues a permit?
It's when
we give approval, yeah.
Yeah.
They may want to ask for an extension if this negotiation is going to take a while.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. We can move on to findings and facts, Jeff, if you.
I'll make a motion to read by number only.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Excuse me, I've got to get home to my wife. Do you think there's any other questions the board might have?
Any other questions for Mr. Lucier?
I'll be available by phone.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So, Name of project, Newman Homes at Fieldstone Meadows. Item number 1, the development will not result in undue water or air pollution.
True. Yes.
Item number 2, sufficient water available for the reasonable foreseeable needs.
Yes.
Item number 3, will not cause unreasonable soil erosion.
Yes. True.
Number 4, the development will not cause unreasonable highway or public road congestion.
True.
Number 5, development will provide adequate solid waste disposal.
True.
Number 6, development will not cause an unreasonable burden on the ability of the municipality to dispose of sewage.
True.
Number 7, the development will not have undue adverse effects to scenic or natural beauty.
True.
Number 8, development is in conformance with zoning.
True.
Number 9, developer has adequate financial and technical capacity.
True.
Good. So we just have the list of fire conditions that you referenced earlier, and then, of course, the 2 conditions from the water and the sanitary that we discussed.
And those
Any-
are all acceptable to us.
Any other questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Thank you.
Okay.
If I got all 4 approved, I was told I could take tomorrow off. so-
Sorry, Jeff.
Next time.
Yeah, I'll be back.
Number 7, the Ursuline Sisters. Oh, sorry. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I don't want to jinx this, but this might be a tad easier.
Okay.
I'm just going to leave it at that. Are we good?
Yep.
I'm Bart Stevens with Century 21 Nason Realty, and I represent the Ursuline Sisters on the sale of their property at 1 St. Angeles Way.
Sorry, it's really hard to hear. Go ahead.
Okay. Where did we leave off? So Bart Stevens with Century 21 Nason Realty. I represent the Ursuline Sisters in the sale of the property at 1 St. Angeles Way, which is the newer convent up on the hill up there. The sisters own approximately 12 acres. And the residence is, we're looking to rezone the residence from institutional to RA, and it's just slightly under 2 acres. It'd be 1.9 acres, with about a little over 200 feet on Mount Mercy Avenue. So it meets all of the requirements for RA zoning. The last 2 sisters moved out of the property this past fall. And the sisters are consolidating, and they have no usage, so they were looking for the best and highest use for the property. Institutional was probably not that use in that location. They also recognize the need for housing and tax dollars for the city, to be quite honest. So they felt that RA was a good option for a single-family home or a 2-family home up there. It lends itself very nicely to a 2-family. It could potentially be a 3 because there are 3 entrances to that building, but the plan is to stick with the RA and move forward from there. So we're just looking for your approval for that to move forward, and I'll answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions for Bart?
I don't have any questions, but I'll just say I am happy that you're here requesting this because it aligns very nicely with a lot of the different sections of the comprehensive plan. So
good. That's what we were planning for.
Yeah.
That's what we were hoping for.
Thanks for adding housing. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much.
Anybody,
Oops, I'm sorry.
we'll have to vote, but any other questions from anybody in the public? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Should we talk about what goes in the memo before we vote, or?
We don't have to do a memo for this, do we?
We're changing the zoning?
It's only
So
for
the-
contract zones.
The memo that we have to write is for contract zones.
Only for contract
Yeah, only
zones?
for contract.
Never mind.
Thank you, guys.
So we just need a motion?
Yeah,
I'll make a motion.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Only to say that one of the reasons that I'm probably sitting here is because of my personal
Your mic.
identification for grade 1 through 8.
Hey, Tom, can you turn on your mic?
Your mic.
I think everyone heard me.
Well, we appreciate that. I happen to serve on the board up there as well, so my foresight is for that entire top of the hill up there, and it's best and practical use as well.
Fond memories of Mother Mary Della Rosa.
Ah.
All right, all those in favor? And just so you know, Bart, now it will go to this was just a recommendation to the city council, and they'll have to take 2 votes on it.
Yep.
And then
Okay.
that's it.
Thank you. I told you it would be relatively easy.
Thank you, Bart.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, item number 9. Is it Mammy's Dreams LLC?
I think you skipped one, unfortunately.
Oh, did I? Sorry. Item number 8, City Council is requesting planning board recommendation concerning section of the rural residential zoning ordinance.
May I, Sam?
Yes.
So I actually requested to postpone this one because I wanted to do some research on surrounding areas and setbacks in rural areas, especially where the speed limit is higher. I couldn't find anything definitive around anybody talking about any safety concerns, but it does appear to be 50 feet is kind of the standard in, I would say, all of Maine for the rural areas. One thing that I did find is, for instance, Fairfield, our neighbor, they did, I'm assuming fairly recently, change their setback requirements specifically for ADUs. They have, ADUs have a shorter setback requirement in their zones. So I was hoping, I don't know if this qualifies. The specific reason that we're talking about this is one person is wanting to build an apartment above a garage. I don't know if it qualifies as an ADU or not.
No, it doesn't, because an ADU under the ordinance is just a second unit where you have a single-family home.
Yeah.
So he has a 2-unit.
Yep. So, but this is detached from the primary residence, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So I don't know if we could do something along those lines of a detached residence from the primary residence could have a shorter setback. I know you mentioned, we'd really only need to change it to 40. I don't know. I definitely think 20 feet is too close. I would even be hesitant to be on board with 30. I'd love if we could find some verbiage where we would say that a primary residence still needs to be 50 feet, but some sort of ADU or detached structure that's not the primary residence could be less, say 40 feet.
May I?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I think your mic's not on, though.
Yeah, it
It is?
It's
Okay.
on now. If your concern is for safety with the setback, the safety of the person in the third unit is just as important as the ones in the front. But I would like to say that most of the rural residential zone is not on West River Road. And if you look at the zoning map, much of West River Road is in the rural, sorry, it's late, residential B zone. So we already
Sure, but-
have, I'm not saying that means we should add more.
I think most
but
of the
it
rural
is-
residential zone is higher speeds, though, than in town.
Well, most of it is actually rural and undeveloped. It's still mostly farmland. If you get off West River Road and go back to 8 Rod Road, for example, there's
Right.
a tremendous amount of land in between
Yeah.
there. So
He means speed limit, though.
Right. I'm talking about the
So, like-
roads that travel along the rural residential where things could be built up today. Those have higher speed
I
limits.
agree that the speed is fast on West River Road. I'm saying, generally speaking, it
And-
isn't that fast on 8 Rod Road. So what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, yeah, part of it is on fast-moving trafficked roads, and some of it isn't. So it's not all, the whole zone isn't the same. But I agree with
Yeah.
you, 40 feet is all that would be needed for this particular apartment to be constructed. I'm not advocating rezoning to 20.
Yeah, yeah.
Any comments from other members of the board? I don't particularly love the idea of changing an ordinance for one person.
That's sort of where I'm struggling too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't want people to be able to build housing, but I have concerns about changing the ordinance for one situation. I mean, we've, I think, seen today how that can play out down the road. So that's sort of my concern, Ann. Yep.
Yeah, of course.
So my name is Justin Morgan, architect with the property in question here. It's a unique situation. We're on the corner of 2 roads. The driveway is only on West River Road. Because we're abutting another road, that's being counted as frontage. So that's where this is kind of a unique situation where it's not the typical frontage where the driveway is meeting the road, the front of the house. It's kind of the side of the lot. And so I think, you know, I don't know if we would be able to apply for like contract zoning for that specific lot to go around rezoning of the whole rural residential. Kind of open to working with you guys. It's just a unique situation for this one lot, and it's that one abutting road that has no drive access that's causing the setback issues. So.
Yeah, is there a way, Ann, to maybe take care of that one? I do understand the issue with the corner lot. And they have trees up there, like, I know it is a different situation than when it's on the road frontage. I can recognize that, but I have concerns about changing the ordinance for an entire part of the city just because of one property.
A unique property.
Yeah, of one unique property, yeah.
Unless, is there a reason to do, is there another reason to do it? Like
It would be
we,
support of your mission statement of pro-development.
yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, like would it allow us to
I didn't
provide
hear
more
what he
housing?
said.
Not
What did
really.
he say?
He said it would support our mission statement of pro-development.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I mean, and that's the only way that I could, that's why I brought it up, right? Like saying ADUs or, you know, other structures it could have a shorter setback.
Well,
that may encourage development. I don't know.
Well, I would argue that this is an area that we know is going to develop over time. And so that big setback kind of places constraints on developers. We know there's a lot of wetland in there. In some places, not in this area, but in some places you have steep slope. Reducing the setback gives the developers flexibility to site houses where there isn't an issue.
I'll just throw my 2 cents in and say also that that is something that has been talked about all over the country as a way to like allow developers to maximize their lot space and the ability to build more housing. It's one of the flagship solutions. I don't know about this specific setback, but I mean, reconsidering setbacks and reimagining lot sizes, which Ann has been a proponent of, has been something that has been offered as a solution or as a contributing solution to housing problems. Just saying, I'm no expert, but.
Any other comments from the board?
It's not a huge difference between 40 and 50 feet. And no one is forced, nobody's going to be forced to build their house closer. It's just giving them more options. And again, as I said, if you look at the zoning map, much of West River Road is already zoned residential B, which has only a 20-foot setback. So we're still 20 feet more than up the road to the north on the same road.
Any other comments? Questions from the public? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Okay, I'll motion to change the zoning ordinance to 40 feet.
I second that.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Can we postpone the last thing, Ann, because this is getting a little.
I think most of the.
We still have.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Mammy's Dreams LLC.
Yeah. But the one after this,
We could,
Yeah.
I don't care about number 10, but I'd like to do number 9.
yeah.
It would be awesome not to do 10 things on
Can we
the.
just ask if there's anybody here to talk about mobile homes other than poor Dan? Nobody in the public?
We're here for number 9.
Okay.
Okay, so then maybe we could postpone the mobile home.
Okay, so we can maybe postpone the number 10. That would be awesome.
Number 9 is going to be very quick.
Mine too.
I promise you. Ready?
So, this is Mammy's Dream over on Evergreen Drive.
Can you zoom in at all?
Yep, I will. And I know we have some folks, they're out back trying to convince my wife that this is a bad project. Not sure where she's going tonight, but. So, this is Evergreen Drive going around here. These are a series of apartments here, and I believe there's condos, I'm sorry, condos. Here. Okay, they're owner-occupied condos. There are several of them on this road. And I heard discussion about some drainage issues, so I'll talk about that in a little bit. What we're proposing here is 12 apartments or condos. I'm not sure exactly what the ownership model will be. These are about 1,600 square feet each. There'll be 2 levels or up or down. So what I'm showing is 6 boxes that could be divided horizontally or vertically. There'll be parking spaces for cars in front of them, and right now this area it's quite a steep wooded hillside going down. Drains right down to the ditch along Evergreen Drive. This is Evergreen Drive here. So what we're doing with the drainage here is taking the water coming off the hillside and splitting it. Half of it will go around to the north, come around here and go through a culvert underneath our driveway. The other half will come around the south side of the buildings and again go to the ditch. Now, what isn't shown on this property is continuing along this ditch on the west and south sides goes to a drainage way that's down just off the screen of the TV here. So there's a place for the water to go. This will have city water and sewer off of Evergreen Drive. The total area is going to be a little under 18,000 square feet impervious. So again, this is just permitting that would be required through the city, no DEP involvement.
So 2 townhouses per building?
Yes,
essentially? Okay.
yeah. But the buildings will be somewhat attached, staggered back to give it a little bit of architectural interest.
They will not be condominium. I mean, they will not be condominiums, so they will not be part of our association.
Right, this is, yeah, it's not part of the existing condominium association. 3 or 4 years ago, the gentleman who owned this property had it permitted for condo development. He didn't build that, so his DEP permit to do that lapsed. And so this is just, he sold off 2 of the other lots, and this is the last 3 lots that are available here. It's map 30.
So this won't be part of the HOA. Does it have public sewer and water?
It does,
Okay,
yeah. So
something I learned today.
yeah. Yeah, so this is much simpler. So tonight, it's just an introductory thing to this, and so I just wanted to tell you about it. I'll be back with a full application, probably that meeting, the first meeting in February.
Great.
Jeff, do
So,
these
yes.
houses have garages, or what are the cars?
No, no.
Okay.
No garages, it'll be just,
It's in front, okay.
there would be room enough that they could do garages, but I think the concept that we're having now is there would just be yard parking.
Okay.
Will there be a dumpster?
Yep, I don't know where yet. Probably, yeah. Okay, so the neighbors don't have dumpsters, so they're very helpful people. Yeah, so probably we'll just have contract with a waste hauler to take away the trash, like the city.
Well, I don't know.
Oh, right, this development might
It's a
not.
different type of development, so they might
Right.
not be able to have city.
Yeah.
Then we'll contract with
It's true.
the folks.
Or have a
up there.
dumpster, but yet to be determined.
Yet to be determined. Yeah,
But you'll
that's
have an
something-
answer for us.
I will have an answer for you
the first
in
week of
4
February.
weeks.
Yep. Well, this might be a great time for residents to address any concerns, before we get to final plan. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Caroline Kroll. I live at 110 Evergreen Drive. I've lived there since 2000, and my memory isn't that great right now, but I'm going to say that back between 2000 and 2005, I attended a council meeting where the prior owner or the owner owned the property, and it was very controversial. It caused a meeting, and it was found that this property was denied for building, and there could only be a one-home building placed there because of emergency services were not fully accessible with the way that the residents park. There's a lot of traffic that comes and goes, and the street is not really that wide. It's a beautiful place for people to come and walk and enjoy life, and it is not patrolled. We do have enough speed problems as it is. To increase it by 24 homes would be absolutely ridiculous. So you have my thoughts on it, and I'd like to know what happened to how this even came about when there's already something on the books that says that it is denied. Thank you.
Ann, do you have any history on that, or?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Because the city council can't, the city council doesn't review development, so it must have been some kind of a zoning issue. I don't know.
Jeff, have you had any discussions with fire yet about?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Not too
No, I know.
long ago, the fireman did look at it, and he said you cannot build houses up there because they could not get their safety equipment or ambulances or anything up into that area.
What's his name?
It would be impossible.
Oh, what was your name, sir?
Dick Fitzgerald, I'm sorry. And I've never been to one of your meetings before, so this,
Oh, you picked a great one.
no, I didn't. And I've been living there for 30 years. A lot of people don't even know we're up there, that's how nice it is. And we want to keep it that way. During the wintertime, and it's so steep, we don't just get water on the north side or the south side, we get floods. Come down about a mile. I get up to my knee in the back of my house, up my deck, on the thaw season, or when we have heavy rain like we've had. You just can't do anything about it. It's been that way. But we dug our own ditches, we made our own trenches, and we did the best we could. There's miles and miles and miles of nature trails up back up there too. Just want you to take this into consideration. The hospital has built all of those. And
I'm sorry, sir. Could you just repeat that last part? I couldn't hear what you said.
I'm sorry, I'm short.
Okay, that's fine. I'm a little deaf. Did you say you said nature trails? Okay.
Yes. There are nature trails, there's ATV trails, and there's motorbike trails back there. And they're used constantly.
So this is a different development than the Evergreen development? I thought that there were plans when the Evergreen development was built to be expanded.
And there were, and police chiefs told them they couldn't, the fire chiefs told them they couldn't, because it was too steep.
Do we have,
and they wouldn't be getting no emergency, but
Yeah.
we heard that, it came back to us somehow.
Well, okay, can I just ask really quickly? When we're talking about accessing with the fire truck, there's a road that goes behind the condos that are there, right?
Sure, that's where all the trails are too.
And so that road, that pre-existing road, no fire trucks can get there? There's no road between that building, I'm sorry, from here it looks, I'm not.
This is good, this is.
There's the airport, and there's Evergreen.
Okay, so where is the outlet of? Evergreen Drive. Evergreen. Right, that's what I'm saying, Evergreen Drive,
Yep,
there is a road, Evergreen Drive.
yes, but it ends.
It's
It
a
ends.
loop.
Yeah, it loops around, so where's the problem with the fire trucks?
We have a looped around road now, but there's no other road up there. Goes from our road to the trails to the airport.
I've never heard of a place that has an actual road that isn't accommodating to a fire truck. That's a first for me.
Part of the review process is we have to get letters from the fire department and so I mean, the developer.
Builders, and we're not builders,
Yeah.
but we just wanted to come, we didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, the city can't
As long as I
prevent
got the
people
floor, I'm gonna use
from
it.
asking for approval. So they can ask for approval and then they have to get it.
Sir? You're the second person that stood up here tonight and said that you have some information that you believe that development cannot be expanded?
Yes.
Okay, and what's your basis for that? Because we can discuss this thing for 3 hours, but if there is something out there that says it can't be developed, then that should be at the end of it. So what do you have?
Our fire department told us that they could not get their equipment up in there for safety reasons.
So what's going to happen is the gentleman's going to come back after having talked to the fire department. And if they say it can't be done, then that's the end of it.
And that's what we heard has been done already.
No, well, it has to be done, and it will be done. He has to get permission from the fire department. So that would be the next step, and then your issue is resolved.
So this is like the pre-application review and a good time for us to get all of this information.
I'm learning that as we go through.
Yep, and then he will have to come back for a final and to show us his final plan.
Okay.
And this is a great time to tell Jeff, hey, this might not work there, or this might work better.
This is very helpful. This is going to be a big change in our lives up there.
Oh, absolutely.
We live in our own little park.
Absolutely.
We have driveways. We have garages that are attached to the building. You can put your car in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
We pay a monthly fee. We don't have to mow the lawn. We paint them ourselves. We have one street that the city won't even plow for us.
Which street is that one?
Evergreen Drive.
Evergreen is not public?
It's not wide enough. And that was 30 years ago. We would like to get the road wide, but we have to hire our own plow to come in and plow some of our roads. We're just trying to voice some of our concerns. We live a pretty good life up there.
Okay.
A lot of people don't even know we're there. People who live there all their lives. Oh, that's where you live.
Yeah. I know it is quiet up there.
Okay. Yes, it is.
It is beautiful. It's lovely, yes. It's very nice up there.
I bought it as a temporary house 32 years ago. That's
Do you
how
have
good.
any
That's how
other-
nice.
Yeah, we got.
And do you know when that was that the last time it tried to be developed and it was denied?
The road?
Yeah.
Just within a year.
Oh, okay.
I tried to get it done last year and I couldn't.
Okay.
This lady here said it was between 2000 and 2005.
Okay.
I attended it, and there was a bunch of people that attended it. It's got to be in the back somewhere.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Thank you, I will.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Amy Burgoyne. I've been a resident and owner for a resident for 20, owner for 17. Yes, Evergreen does get plowed. There is an offshoot, there are 2 offshoots that are considered private driveways off Evergreen that we have to do ourselves, one of which is right at the beginning and one is between my building. The city does plow the majority of it, but it's a narrow road. Winter, everything gets narrow. During the summer, spring, everybody walks. There are no sidewalks. There's no controlled speed. When you start bringing in all these extra vehicles, never mind the drainage situation, road's not wide enough. People are going to get hurt. People bike, they walk. It's gonna be a problem. There's no, like I said, there's no sidewalks. There's no speed limit enforcement at all. People come ripping around that corner like they're headed to the Indy 500. And somebody's gonna get hurt. So and we've been told, yeah, in the past, the last time the property was sold, it was gonna be for private residences. Was that a farce? Just to sneak in apartments? And the ownership becomes the biggest issue for me. You don't know if it's gonna be condos or apartments. That's a huge difference. Apartments, rentals, constant turnover, who knows what you get. Owners, again, possibly you're creating a new association, so there's more responsibility, more interest in participating in the entire neighborhood, but you don't know. So those are my biggest concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eric Dumont. I'm also president of one of the condo associations there. We have 2 buildings with 16 units. I've also been involved throughout my career in road building, road maintenance. So I will tell you that it's a very narrow road. Tractor trailers would have a very hard time negotiating that road. There are ditches, so to speak, but there's no shoulder. You have to kind of walk on the road if you're going to walk. It's very dangerous. So the city would have to widen the road and make sidewalks. If you're going to have that many people up there, not to say that you have all of Seton Village and the elderly before you even get to Evergreen Drive. So you have all these people, these old people are walking around, and now you're adding more vehicles, more people up on that hill. And then, if you want to build, they're going to have to move dirt out of there because it's steep. They got to flatten it out. You can't put a house on the side hill. It ain't going to work. And it's very wet, but they're going to have to move a lot of material out of there. I don't know how they're going to do that with the existing traffic. Now you've got all these dump trucks coming in and out of there. And that's just to build. So you have a multitude of problems there, and it's wet. It's wet all the time. Our buildings are over 30 years old. We're using dehumidifiers in the basement because all water runs downhill, and that's what this is. That's one big hill up there. So it's a problem. Another thing we have a problem with right now is we're in Ward 5 in Waterville, and we have no councilman representing us. I find that a problem. I find that abhorrent. I might even run. So we don't have nobody on the board right now or on the council talking or speaking for us, and that's not right. So no decision should be made on this until we have representation on the council, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, so this would never go to the council. This is like a planning board decision.
Yeah, but we got nobody speaking for us. This comes up, you know, somebody came to our building and posted these things. Other than that, we didn't know. So maybe shame on us, but
Well-
who gets on the Waterville, City of Waterville website and looks around?
They get notified for the
The
final.
next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you get notified?
He has to do certified letter.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right, so that's the problem. You have a logistics problem. And it's gonna cost. And the city better start anteing up if they're gonna fix that road. They're gonna widen it, they're gonna have to re-ditch it, they're gonna have to put some sort of shoulder on it, because it's a safety issue for the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good
Hello.
evening. Yep, my name is Kathleen Kelly. I live at 304 Evergreen Drive, and it's directly across from the property that's going to be discussed. I've been there since 1986. And how many of you know where Evergreen Drive is? So you've driven on Evergreen Drive? Okay.
I'm your legislator.
Huh?
I've been up there, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, you don't have to raise your hands. Okay, as you enter Evergreen Drive, there's a sign that reads Ridgewood Condominium Community. The Ridgewood Condominium Community is an established, safe, and stable neighborhood. Where do apartments fit into the definition of condominiums? In the planning of these apartments is the intent to include affordable housing. If you should travel on Evergreen Drive on a rainy day, you'll see rivulets of water coming down off the hill, running down, and the water runs behind the curbing. It's seeking its level. It takes along with it the debris. It runs out on Evergreen Drive, and it's a mess. There is much that the board needs to consider to address this before consideration advances.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the board for their patience this evening. My name is Debbie Cunningham. I am a resident at 314 Evergreen Drive, and I have been in my property for 6 months. I purchased it because of the characteristic of the quiet community and because it was moderately dense, having moved from over from Oakland after we've lived in Central Maine for 17 years. And so I chose to make this move when my husband died. And I chose a property because I thought it was suited and quiet. And I had two concerns about purchasing the property. The first is that the road is very narrow. I will not belabor that. I think that point has been made. The second concern I have, it is a one-way in, one-way out community. Until you get to Carver Street off of John, there are not two exits to this facility, to this community. If you create more residents in that area without creating alternative routes, you are creating a dangerous situation in the event of evacuation. We are spoiled in Maine in that we don't worry about wildfire and those kinds of things. But it is real that at times a community will have to be evacuated, and if you are not taking that into consideration, you are not thinking about the future of our city. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Steve Rowe, resident of 302, and I posted those things on people's door so that people would be aware of this plan, and I think it's important to, you know, oftentimes I found that planning boards can be a bit of a nose count, and, you know, I think that we needed to make our mark early on this. There's a lot of details I hear, you know, talked about, but I think to me it might just come down to two things, you know, is it appropriate? And how does the community feel about it? And, you know, that looks like we're going to have a football stadium across the road. And, you know, have you been there? Have you driven Evergreen Drive? Have you?
Me personally,
Yes, you
if I have, it was years ago.
It's pretty woodsy.
It's
okay?
not something I go up every week.
That
so.
area where the development is proposed to be is just a hillside of trees. It's a very wet hillside, so anytime it rains, you'll see, it's also armored. It's so steep that the town, I guess, had armored the hillside so that the ditch wouldn't slump down into the road. There's riprap on it. So, you know, when it rains, you see these braided channels coming down off the side. And it's almost like a waterfall. And that overwhelms the ditch. And it hops the road. And in the summertime, it's leaves and sticks and stuff like that. In the wintertime, it's a bunch of ice. So, I mean, the fact that, you know, it's proposed to put some of the drainage up there and some of the drainage down there, it doesn't change the amount of water. It just splits it in half and it goes the same place because it's downhill this way, right? So, you know, appropriateness just really doesn't seem to be there. Plus, it's a condo neighborhood, right? I mean, it's not an apartment neighborhood. The second thing is community involvement. The word that we got early on is that it's, you know, we knew the property was for sale, we knew it was bought. And, well, that's America, right? You can buy and develop property. What we heard, it was going to be a couple of condos. You know, like there's different styles there, you know, big buildings, and you've seen it. Not, you know, 12 two-story apartment buildings, so it's...
There are 12 units, 6 buildings. Right,
yeah.
yep. And they are condos or?
No,
Apartments, okay. But it's one single apartment on each floor. It's basically a duplex.
It'll either be
They're duplexes,
one on each
right.
floor
Yep.
or side by side.
Okay, cool.
So-
All right, just making sure I have this straight.
So that's a lot of cars, that's a lot of people, and also I don't know what zoning, it's RB.
RB,
Does that allow apartments?
Yes.
It does, okay.
Unfortunately, yes,
Yeah.
this is a case where the zoning allows for this.
Mhm.
So there are limitations to what we can make for a call.
Mhm.
Whoops, I'm sorry, I thought it was on. There are limitations to what we're allowed to do, just based on
Yeah.
the city law.
Okay.
But I appreciate what you're saying, and I do agree that it is a very nice neighborhood. I love walking up there when I go like door knocking and stuff, and it's a nice neighborhood. Everybody seems to really have a good relationship with all their neighbors and
Yeah,
stuff.
so I
Yeah.
think, you know, the question is it appropriate despite, you know, the details?
Mhm.
And has the community been involved? And, you know, it doesn't seem that, so, thank you.
Thank you. I have to say, I'm impressed by your organizational skills and appreciate everybody's sentiment that they expressed.
I will say, Jeff, the pitch of that land does seem,
The land itself you're right, is very steep. And so all this grading you see in behind the buildings is to cut it down. So what we've got is about a 6 or 7% slope for that driveway coming into it. That, I think the fire department would allow that where they would not allow building on the hillside before you cut it down.
Yeah. This reminds me of the KB Cap development off of Gold Street.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Looks very similar.
very similar to that.
Yeah.
This won't be nearly as dense as that.
Yeah, and I mean just the grading and the slopes and
Yeah, that was like a 37
cutting into it. Yeah.
unit. This is 12 units.
Yeah.
Just
the grading.
to be clear.
That's all.
But yeah, the grading will be, you know, that would be the biggest challenge with constructing this is cutting that down. And I've taken some notes. I appreciate everybody's comments. I think those are great. Gives me things to look at and make sure that I can address when I come back again.
Look up the meeting, please.
I will, I'll work with work with Mrs. Beveridge to see if we can find those minutes.
Is there also a height that can only go so high because the airport is?
We're still way below the top of the hill.
Yeah.
You know, I think most fire departments allow you to build 32 feet high or 35 feet. We're going to be well below that because these will be 2-story units.
But there's no height that says that because there's an airport above, that your building can't be
No,
a certain height?
you can't be in the glide path. That's very
right.
true. But this is below the top of the hill. So there's our natural barrier that's higher than what these units
I mean,
will be.
it looks like there's existing trees that would be taller than
Yeah.
the buildings.
The trees on the hillside will be very, quite a bit higher than the roofs.
Sir, here are my concerns. You were talking about elevation, and we're talking about ingress and egress, but I'm very familiar with Evergreen. I'm familiar with Seton Village, and I'm very familiar with the amount of traffic that goes by the retirement Seton Village area to get up to Evergreen. But in your opinion, when the Evergreen was developed, what were they trying to create? You have no sidewalks, you've got wooded area, you've got trails. So what was the concept? Was it a concept to have first of all, it's very congested as it is. You've got one neighbor backing down his or her driveway, the other neighbor backing down his or her driveway. And that's, I mean, I've seen that happen. But why should anyone take away the way of life that these folks have experienced for the last 20, 30 years? It's not as if it was developed. It's not
I
as
don't
if
look
it was
at this as
developed to be
taking away.
expanded because there were no
Right.
sidewalks. I mean, it was intended for a quiet, nice community.
Right, but is this a case where I have my neighborhood and I don't want new neighbors?
What's that again?
Is this a case of I have my neighborhood and I don't want new neighbors?
And that's not what it is. I didn't hear anyone say that.
That's the sentiment that I'm feeling, is that,
Well, has anyone said that, despite your feelings?
well, no, what you're saying, though, is it's a very densely developed neighborhood. I believe that. But where's the limit? Are you saying the limit is what you have now?
You're already zoned to build a home up there, some homes. Well, what's wrong with that? You want to build a home up there? Fine. You want to build all those buildings? No. It doesn't make sense.
But the zoning allows that.
Right.
Right for the area.
Well, unfortunately, at the end of the day, I mean, our responsibility is.
It's not productive for people to talk over one another at 10 o'clock at night. So if we could do one at a time, I would really appreciate it.
My name is Carl Diker. I live at 316 Evergreen Drive. My concern would be, last year or the year before, that entire property was divided into, what, 5 lots? I think it was divided into 5 lots. And this is on one of them.
This is on 3 of them.
It's on 3 of them? So we still have 2 more that could possibly get developed. Okay. I've been there 20 years, and I totally agree with what everybody has said about the water coming down those. It just floods like you couldn't believe. So anyway,
Are the other properties still being sold, or has somebody bought them, do you know?
I don't know.
I think they're sold.
They're
we
sold?
thought they were sold.
A single
Yeah.
house is what we hear.
They will be single houses? Yep.
Well, it's really wet. There's stream channels. They're deep ones. You've seen them. And what we understand is that someone's going to build a house, which I think is fine.
Well, is that where the driveway has been put in? There is a driveway that was started.
No, some work had been started.
Anyway,
It
yeah,
is-
my concern is that the rest of the property could be developed too, and then it's sort of a,
Right.
The folks that I'm working with just own these 3 lots. They don't own the other lots.
and how far up the hill does that property go? If it goes all the way, I mean, that, the end, the stub at the end,
Okay.
could you keep it going up the hill?
No, well, you get to a point where you're going into the hillside, you'd have to excavate more and more of the hill. So this is all we thought was reasonable to do without, the next unit back, you'd have to excavate twice as much hillside. But I'm not sure of the exact distance back. It's a couple hundred feet back from Evergreen Drive.
I do wonder if that turnaround is going to be sufficient for the fire department.
I think the road is short enough, they'd pull in and they'd back out. Because there's no.
How long is that road supposed to be?
It looks like about 60 feet,
Okay.
60 or 70 feet.
Are there there must be hydrants then around there, or?
There are public hydrants on Evergreen, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First, I'd like to apologize for my loud voice earlier. I have tinnitus, and it's hard for me to hear, so I get loud at times. I'm sorry.
Oh,
about
no
that.
worries.
Not at all, no problem.
All right.
I appreciate your loudness.
Okay. Someone who can sympathize. Thank you. One of the
What is his name?
concerns I
Oh,
have is...
could you please say your name?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
guess I'm on.
Yep.
My name's Steve Sear.
Thank
I
you.
live at 306 Evergreen. And my major concern, seeing the preliminary plans and the fact that I know that from the road, from the ditching area to the top of the hill, they're basically about 60 feet in difference, 50 to 60 feet in difference. I don't have the exact number in front of me. Meaning, if you start at the roadside entrance, going up to the top of that, end of that driveway, it's pretty much the length of all of our condo buildings, which is, I'm not real sure of it, 75 feet maybe? Given that, there is, what did you say? I'm sorry?
I said about 70 feet from the road to the end of the road.
Okay, yeah, and given the fact that the hill is pretty much at a 45-degree angle, and you said you were looking at maybe
5 or 6% slope.
Yeah.
5 or 6% slope driveway, meaning that terracing or whatever you're gonna have to do to stop all that water drainage, it's gonna be an amazing amount of force going on that terrace slope from the remainder of the top of the hill. That, to me, looks like a potential landslide in the future.
So what we'll be doing is sloping that back enough so it's like a 2-to-1 slope, and then lining it with riprap. So
Okay.
that'll be like you.
And how is that gonna direct the water to the ditches if it's just riprap?
The hillside will be riprapped. As you come down, there'll be a ditch around the bottom. The ditch will be lined with riprap to bring the water, split it, and bring it around
Yeah, all
Yeah.
into the same ditch?
into the same ditch that's there now.
Yeah,
But that's not saying that we couldn't improve the ditches some.
right.
I mean, that sounds like a solution, is to fix the ditches.
Right. Yes,
Yeah,
narrow road.
but there's some distance between the road and the right-of-way, so, that's something I can look at. So this is why I appreciate your feedback,
Yeah.
is that we're, I can know what problems to address.
And the other thing that, I do like my privacy very much. And the fact that your driveway is exactly opposite mine at this point. So if there's an icy condition from one of the units on the top, and they come down without any sanding on the road, they're gonna go all the way through my driveway, right into the patch trees between unit 1 and 2. So just something to remember.
Yeah.
Okay? Not saying it's going to be the final plan and how it's all going to be, but the way it's laid out now, that's how I see it.
I like how much all of you have thought about this.
Yes, there's a lot to think about here. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You talked about a culvert going underneath the driveway.
Yes.
That will get blocked up at that end with debris from the falling leaves. Who's going to be responsible for keeping that clear so that it doesn't back up and go out onto the road?
I think we could probably put a larger culvert in there. It may get blocked up, but that would be something that Public Works should address.
Should or will?
Should, because it's not on our property, and it's, the culvert will be in the city right of way. So if you're having problems out there, you know, I'd be happy to help if any way I could, but that again is something that Public Works should be doing, is maintaining the ditches.
Well, one of the problems is that curbing, it's not high enough to support the flow of water along that, and the water doesn't even get around the corner, it goes out onto the road. Somebody mentioned it, it goes out onto the road. And, you know, as the temperatures get colder, it's gonna freeze.
Yep.
And it's a curve.
Yep.
And a lot of people go around that curve.
I have a question. Is this based on like a 50-year flood plan or a
This-
100-year flood plan?
This is out above the 100-year floodplain, so it isn't in the flood zone.
You know, the zoning is unfortunate.
It's the same zoning that allowed your development to be built. And it is a conversation that has been had a lot in this city. It is hard when there's a housing shortage to find a balance between what people want to stay the same and what is needed for growth. But, and I've had to say this many times, and I've had to hear it many times, doesn't get easier either, in either situation. But when the zoning, like, the developer who sold that land to this developer, like, the whole transfer of that was based on the zoning, which is why the church didn't get to have what they wanted for their parking lot, because the zone, when it was sold, didn't allow for it.
So, well, how can you account for appropriateness though? Because, you know, when, at first what we heard was a couple of condos, it's like, great, maybe we abide.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
now it's a football stadium with 12 apartments.
Well, we don't know for sure what it is yet, because this is just super preliminary. And so I appreciate everybody coming out tonight and giving your opinions, because again, like Jeff had said, this gives him some feedback to work with and a place to start. None of this is all set in stone, and none of this is being approved tonight or disapproved tonight. This is all just bringing it to the public's attention.
No.
Or spot zoning?
No.
Because that's what it seems like to me.
No, it's a
No.
All of a sudden, we have zoning,
No, this is,
this guy wants to change
It's the
it
same zoning.
to accommodate him.
Nope, it's the
Nope.
same
No, we're-
zoning that allowed for your development to be built, applies to this
Over
development.
30 years ago, though, so when all of
Yeah.
us moved in, who would have thought that this would be a discussion that we were here for?
Well, that's true. When I was
Because the
growing
plan
up,
was for condos.
when I was growing up, we bought a farm that had a 100-acre field across the street, and we ended up buying it because there was just as much chance of a Walmart being built there as nothing,
called
right?
Central Main
And
Zone.
that is the unfortunate part about just everything. If you go down to Portland, Maine, you will see it's a very different landscape than it was 30 years ago. Our population in Maine has grown by almost 85,000 in the last 10 years. There will be more houses to accommodate that. I will tell you, Jeff is very good at what he does, and he is not a fly-by-night, engineer. So the concerns that you have, I think that hey, my endorsement, right? No, but I think that if you have specific questions for him, I think that he will be able to answer everything that you have, maybe not at 10 o'clock at night, but he would probably be able to answer all your questions. Like, he's never not been the most patient person in the world that I've ever met, and also very good at his job. So, yeah.
Well, you're on his side.
Am I? Why don't you ask him that question?
She's not on my side.
Okay, please.
The
Enough.
homeowner.
Okay,
that have
sir,
investment,
please.
We've got to sit down and
Sir.
listen.
Sir, if I may, the fact that it's before this board has caused a concern for all of you, and some of you may even feel threatened. But I'm going to tell you that this gentleman here may be an expert at what he may be.
I don't care.
Sir, he may be an expert at what he does.
Good for him.
As I sit here, I take every case as a single case. I listen to the facts. And we're going to take a vote here tonight, probably. And I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to vote even for the preliminary plan. I've got some very serious concerns. I'm familiar with the area, and there's no one in this room that's going to convince me that those roads at this point can provide for a fire truck coming in or a rescue truck going in. It just can't. So until that's addressed.
The plow,
Sir,
the city plow has a hard time plowing.
I'm with you.
It's logistics.
Just take, if you want to get angry, go out, do it outside. Everyone here is trying to do their job.
Sam,
Um,
Sam,
Thank
can
you.
we move on to the next item?
May I ask questions?
I'm asking you a
Holy
question.
moly. Jeff, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
So the lot minimum for residential B, which is what this is, right, is 10,000 square feet or 5,000 square feet per family? So how many?
The entire parcel, the 3 parcels, is somewhere around 4 acres.
Yeah.
So that would be around 160,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah, but where the homes are on the development, though, right? Like, I feel like the square footage, maybe I'm mistaken, but the square footage is for density.
That's for density.
Yeah.
We're still well under the standard here. Because if it's 10,000 square foot, this is not a part of a multifamily. This is a straight apartment. So multifamilies have,
It's the same.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Section of the ordinance.
so is it 10,000 square feet per unit?
No, 5,000.
5,000 square feet per unit. So with 12 units, I'd need 60,000 square feet. I have about 160,000 square feet. Right. So we're well under density here.
It also says a front yard of 20 feet.
Yep, got it.
One more quick point to the drainage issues. In our association alone, over the past 20 years that I've been there, we have 3 times had significant flooding in the basements of at least one building several times, my building once, and that results in property damage, and the increased drainage would, by extension, create a concern for increased flooding.
Yeah,
Even
and
though
then
it's under DEP limits, you know
Yeah.
what's going to happen.
then the other
Well-
thing, though, Jeff, in the ordinance, it does say usable open area, minimum 40% of the lot.
Right. The rest of the hillside, we're not touching. That's,
Minimum, though, right? Like, so,
yeah, if we're impacting, actually, this impact is about roughly 20,000 square feet. So,
but the open area, the usable open area, the rest of that isn't usable,
That can
right?
still-
the hillside is usable.
Yeah, wooded is still usable.
But you really can't build on
Yeah,
it.
there's a definition
usable
of
is-
usable. It means that you don't have a driveway or parking or a house.
Okay.
And you notice there's a dashed line around inside the property. That's the 20-foot front setback. So we're roughly 30 feet off of the property line for the first building.
The more trees you cut out, the more water you're going to have.
Yeah. This is the 20-foot front setback line.
I
right here.
understand.
Yeah.
That's only from here to the, it's more than the flag.
I've been in meetings since 8 this morning, so I'm getting a little loopy here, sorry.
All right, any other comments for Jeff?
I have one question.
Yes.
The prospective buyer, what is his dream for the valuation of his property, of these homes? What is it going to be?
I have no idea. This isn't a prospective buyer. This is a person who has bought the property already. But they're looking for the maximum return on their investment. You know, they're looking to make money on this. That's why they're building something.
Maybe wrong, they weren't.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if they have a particular number in mind, but that's not really my business to do that. I'm just here to.
You haven't seen any architectural drawings or?
No. No. The site plan is just something like this that shows where the buildings are going to be located, the driveways, how steep the road is, where the water goes. That's real.
Also would be important for us too,
Yeah.
for our evaluation.
What the buildings look like, that's not part of.
Not what they look like, but what they would be structurally as to the valuation to purchase, what kind of people would be coming in.
Yeah. Well, they're apartments, though, rather than condos. So I'm guessing these are 1,600 square foot apartments. Those are big apartments. So they're not going to be, it's not going to be low-income housing. It'll be market rate housing.
I'm glad we're at least establishing the apartments
Yeah.
at the beginning of this.
I may have,
Condo, maybe apartment.
yeah, I may have, yeah. But, yeah, it will be, they don't want to build something cheap in here. It's going to be compatible with your nice neighborhood. It'll be
Okay.
different. It'll be very different, but it'll be compatible. So,
When are you planning on coming back, Jeff? When are you planning on coming back, Jeff?
I think
So that all
probably
these
that
people
first
know.
meeting in, was it November 11? Ann?
November?
Or February, yeah. Oh, yeah, February, it's late, yeah. February 11, I believe,
Okay.
is when I would hope to come back. But again, before that meeting, everybody should get a letter. If you don't get a letter, check with your neighbors to make sure that they get a letter, or if you do get a letter.
Well, do they have to notify everyone in the association? Or just the abutting?
Where there's many associations.
Yeah, it's such a dense development in there. I think there was something like 47 names on the list, because we have prepared the list, but
Do you see all the green space in between the buildings?
yes.
It doesn't feel very dense living there. That's dense.
Well, they are right next to each other, but it's still only 12 units. How many units are in each building? 5? Yeah, so there'll be one more in each of those sides. Yeah,
So instead of 5, he's saying
there'll be, yeah,
No, there will be
six
12.
on each side.
Bill, have you been up there?
Yes, okay, okay, thank you, please. Any other questions?
Can we be on the agenda before the church next time?
The church should.
Please.
I don't make the agenda. If I did, there wouldn't have been 10 things on it. I motion to adjourn.
Oh, please.
Oh, what?
Could we take a vote to postpone the mobile home?
I make a motion to postpone a
Till a
last
date
agenda item to the next planning board meeting.
I'll second it.
Who seconded? Heath?
Thank you for your patience and help tonight.
Everybody says okay.
Thank you for your patience.
Yes, it was unanimous.
Thank you.
I get work.